No matter how desperately they tried to flee, there was no escaping a true dragon, especially not one driven by pure, righteous fury. Rimuru advanced slowly, sword in hand, her steps calm but heavy with purpose. To the untrained eye, her movements seemed almost casual. But if Ridra or Guy had been present, they would have recognized the truth. She had swung her sword dozens of times in the span of a single second. The result? Screams tore through the air as nearby soldiers collapsed, their bodies severed cleanly into pieces. Yet not a single vital organ had been touched. The pain was immense, deliberate. This wasn't mercy. It was judgment. A slow, agonizing death by blood loss awaited them. Rimuru wanted them to suffer, just as Lucia and Veldonava had suffered. Ignoring their wails, she continued walking, her gaze as cold and lifeless as the sword in her hand. The true punishment was only just beginning. As the others tried to escape in a panic, Rimuru raised her sword again. With a single swing, she sliced through the legs of every soldier within her sight. For a moment, there was silence. Then collapse. One by one, the soldiers crumpled to the ground, realizing too late that their legs had been severed with such precision that their nerves had not even registered the pain immediately. And then the flames came. From the open wounds erupted dark fire, blacker than shadow, hotter than any sun. The screams this time were louder, more primal. Earth! These were no ordinary flames. They consumed not just flesh and bone, but the astral body, the soul itself, reduced to ash. Among the survivors, panic turned into raw terror. Raven's group, still alive, threw away any dignity they had and ran, heart pounding, limbs flailing, hoping, praying, they wouldn't be next. They wouldn't be so lucky. Rimuru raised a hand and whispered, "Freeze." Instantly, several soldiers stopped mid-run, their bodies locked in place. Muscles wouldn't twitch. Breath wouldn't come. They were statues of flesh, helpless. "Turn around," Rimuru ordered. They did, and when their eyes met hers, they wished they hadn't. Her gaze was monstrous, radiating such hatred and malice that some of the soldiers wet themselves on the spot. Disgusted, Rimuru lowered her hand. She had planned to dismember them and rearrange their bodies into a grotesque hunter to pursue the rest. But now, she didn't even want to touch them. Instead, she summoned knives. Dark, curved blades materialized in the air and floated toward the frozen men. "Take the knives," she commanded, "and kill each other. The last one alive will stab himself until death." To someone watching, it might have seemed a lighter punishment compared to what had come before. But those knives were cursed. They inflicted pain not just physically, but mentally. Each cut would activate thought acceleration, forcing the victim to feel the pain 100 times slower, as if every inch of torn flesh was dragged across a century. Even Clayman, once a demon lord, had almost lost his mind under such torment. These soldiers? They had no chance. Screaming, howling, they fell upon each other like rabid animals, driven by Rimuru's will and the knive's curse. Blood spilled like rain. Agony became a symphony. Rimuru turned her back to them and looked toward the forest. Only 3 remained. She raised her hand once more. Dark binding. Black tendrils erupted from the ground like serpents, trying to snare the fleeing elites. The 3 barely managed to dodge, escaping only thanks to their advanced skill sets. But they didn't have long to celebrate, because Rimuru was already there. She walked right past them. No flash, no attack, not even a glance. And as she passed, they turned to mist. Their bodies had been sliced into particles so fine, the wind carried them away like dust. Not a drop of blood remained. Now, only one was left. Rimuru's eyes glowed with smoldering wrath as she looked toward the forest. "You're the last one," she whispered. In the depths of the forest, Raven ran like a hunted animal, desperation clouding his senses. The moment Rimuru had spoken earlier, he had felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Without hesitation, he crushed the life-saving treasure he always kept with him, a teleportation crystal. It sent him 500 meters away, just far enough to escape the immediate danger, but not the terror. Even as he gasped for air, Raven didn't dare stop. He sprinted through the forest like a man possessed. Distance was the only thing that might save him. His mind, however, betrayed him, flooded with memories of the moment that dragon turned into a woman. She didn't look like a monster. She became something else entirely. He had read about beings like her. Long ago, in the Imperial Library, Raven had come across a dusty, forgotten tome, one that spoke of ancient monsters who once ruled the Cardinal World. Among them were the true dragons, beings so powerful they were considered living disasters. There were 5. The Star Dragon King, the creator of the world and oldest of the true dragons. The Void Empress, the Chaos Creator, mother of monsters. The White Dragon, guardian of the North. The Scorched Dragon, protector of the East. And finally, the Storm Dragon, the youngest, unrecorded, never seen since birth. Raven remembered one detail above all. True dragons are beyond monsters. They are calamities given form. His mind raced. Could it be her? That storm, that pressure, it matches what the book described. Could she really be one of them? He didn't have long to think, because very soon he would find out for certain, and he would wish he hadn't. After she was done cleansing the battlefield of those who had dared to harm her family, Rimuru closed her eyes. With her universal sense, it took less than a second to find the final target. Raven. The coward had used a teleportation artifact during the chaos, vanishing into the forest. But he hadn't escaped. Far from it. Rimuru had allowed it. The moment she glimpsed his memories, her fury had nearly consumed her. She had seen it. Raven, dagger pressed against Mlim's throat, using Lucia and Veldonava's injuries as leverage. He was the one who had hurt them the most. He was the one who needed to suffer the most. A swift death would be too kind. Rimuru wanted him to feel hunted, to drown in fear and false hope until the very last second. So she stalked him at a distance, launching precise, controlled attacks with her sword from miles away. Blades of energy flew through the forest, every 5 minutes like death itself breathing down his neck. And each one missed just barely. On purpose. Raven, meanwhile, was a mess. His elite training, his arrogance, his composure, shattered. His armor had long since been reduced to scrap, his body a tapestry of bleeding cuts. His cloak was tattered, his skin caked in mud, sweat, and blood. With every step, he stumbled, but terror kept him going. Every 5 minutes, like clockwork, a slash would tear through the air. From above, behind, the side. There was no pattern, no rhythm, no escape. Each near miss was worse than the last. And then he heard footsteps. Slow, calm, measured, death incarnate. He turned, and there she was. Rimuru walked toward him, unhurried, sword in hand. Blood still dripped from its edge, an extension of her wrath. Raven fell to the ground, all strength gone. He scrambled backward on his hands and heels, desperation overtaking any semblance of pride. Please, please, I beg you, have mercy. Spare me, O mighty storm dragon, he screamed, voice cracking. Rimuru paused. Storm dragon? Ah, he had mistaken her for Veldora. She didn't care to correct him, until now. Raising her blade, she spoke with a cold finality. I'm not the storm dragon. Her voice was ice. Absolute. Final. I'm the Void Empress. And for your crimes, the sentence is annihilation. Before Raven could utter another word, her blade flashed. His head was severed in a single, fluid motion. But she didn't stop there. As the sword struck, she activated thought acceleration, forcing his consciousness to stretch the pain of death into an eternity. She infused the strike with turn null, warping his very essence as it disintegrated. No scream left his lips. His soul was shredded before he had the chance. And just like that, Raven ceased to exist. Not a body, not a soul, nothing remained. Rimuru stood in silence. The rage slowly receded from her expression, replaced by a heavy weariness. Her revenge was complete, but her heart wasn't at peace. She sighed and turned back. There were more important things waiting for her. She returned to the healing grounds, where Veldonava and Lucia lay unconscious inside a protective barrier. A small crowd had gathered, Veldora, Velgrind, Velzard. Even Evarge stood solemnly in the back. Their expressions were grim. They had all felt it. The moment Veldonava's soul nearly slipped away. The survivors from Rimuru's restaurant had also arrived, worry etched across their faces. As soon as Rimuru stepped into view, Velgrind and Velzard rushed to her, embracing her in tears. Especially Velgrind. She had been the closest to Veldonava and Lucia, yet still too late. "I'm sorry," Rimuru whispered, holding them close. "I should have been faster." After consoling them, Rimuru entered the barrier. Inside, Ciel stood in the center, magic radiating from her as she poured pure energy into Veldonava and Lucia. Her expression was strained, focused, but also grave. "Ciel," Rimuru frowned. "Why does it look like this is taking everything you've got?" Ciel's eyes flickered toward her. "Master, their souls are critically unstable, especially Veldonava's. I'm barely holding them here." Rimuru's heart sank. A quick scan confirmed it. Their souls were faint, flickering like dying embers. If Ciel had not been here, they would have already slipped into the void. "They overused soul-based techniques," Rimuru said through clenched teeth. "They pushed too far. Damn it." She turned to Ciel. "Do we have a fix? Tell me what to do." Ciel hesitated before answering. The most efficient method would be to sacrifice souls, billions of them. But given their level of existence, it would take over 100 billion to restore them both. Rimuru's eyes darkened. "That's 90% of the total population," she muttered. "Even if I were to harden my heart, Big Brother would never forgive me. He'd stop me himself." Ciel nodded. "I considered using turn null energy, but..." Rimuru paused, already sensing the issue. Ciel shook her head. "It would do more harm than good in their current state." "So what can we do?" Rimuru demanded. Ciel looked down. "The safest option is to move them into the imaginary space. There, time flows differently. Their souls can recover, slowly. But it may take centuries." "A coma," Rimuru whispered. "You're telling me the only choice is to seal them away and wait?" "I'm sorry, Master." Rimuru fell silent. She wanted to scream, to tear something apart again. But instead, she took a deep breath. Ciel had done her best. There was no blame to place. "No," Rimuru finally said, gentler this time. "You've done more than enough. At least we can keep them alive." Ciel nodded, though a flicker of guilt remained in her expression. And then, after a brief silence, her eyes lit up. "Master, I may have a temporary solution." Rimuru's head snapped up. "I can stimulate their souls just enough to bring them back to consciousness, for a short while. Minutes at most." "That's more than enough," Rimuru said, eyes brimming with hope. "Let me speak with them, even just once." Ciel didn't hesitate. She drew 1,000,000 souls from the imaginary space, refining them into soul energy of the highest purity. It was delicate work. She matched the soul signatures down to the most intricate vibration. Anything less could destroy what little remained. After half an hour of flawless control and focus, the infusion was complete. Only 12% of Lucia's soul had recovered. Veldonava's, barely 1.453%. But it was enough. As the energy settled, their chests began to rise. Their eyelids fluttered. Rimuru took a single step closer and whispered, voice trembling with emotion. "Big Brother, Lucia, come back." And for the first time since that devastating moment, they did.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
The first to wake up was Veldonava. When he opened his eyes, he saw the two Rimurus in front of his face. One of them had an indifferent look, while the other had a tearful but enraged look. And seeing the second one's look, Veldonava knew he might be in for a beating. And he got just that. Rimuru grabbed his collar and hit him right in the stomach with a punch with her physical strength. Veldonava felt his insides almost burst from his mouth. He crawled on the floor and writhed in pain. "That is for doing stuff, this reckless you fool. Do you even understand what could happen if you have overused your soul? Your chances of reincarnation would drop to 1%. Rimuru screamed as she glared at Veldonava. "Haha, sorry about that. I just wanted to protect my family, so I didn't think of the consequences. Veldonava said with an awkward laugh. He didn't regret his actions. His only regret is hurting his family to worry about him like this. So what is my situation? Veldonava asked after Rimuru calmed down a little. You will only have 2 hours to stay conscious. After that you will fall into a coma till all of your souls recover. How long the process would take is something even I don't know. Rimuru said as she watched his expression change. So that means I won't be able to watch my daughter grow up, huh? Veldonava said with a resigned voice. For a parent to not watch his child grow up is the worst punishment one could ask for. Sadly, yes, big brother, since Lucia will wake up in a few minutes. I will leave you guys alone for you to be with Mlim. I have transferred some of my magicules to you so you could use some of your skills for a short time, Rimuru said as she walked away. She knew they needed some time to cope with the situation. When she came out of the barrier, she saw the crowd had gathered there. Rudra, Guy, Velgrind, Velzard the primordial demons, and angels, everyone who is related to Veldonava, is here. They all had worried expressions. The only reason they didn't rush in was because of the small barrier Ciel had placed. Without knowing the details, first they didn't dare to rush in. Rimuru looked at them and said sadly, their lives aren't in any danger, but both Lucia and Veldonava had overused their souls. So for at least after 2 hours they would fall into a coma. They would need at least 1,000 years to recover enough soul energy and heal themselves. Everyone sighed in relief after hearing their lives are not in danger. But their eyes widened when they heard about them going into a coma. Although everyone here has a very high lifespan, but even to them going into a forced coma for 1,000 years is a very bad thing. Is there really no other way, Rimuru? Rudra asked, heartbroken. Rimuru shook her head and said sadly, no, trust me, if there is I would have already done that. Rudra looked down as he clenched his fists. Damn those traitors. As soon as I go back, I'm going to finish them myself. He cursed as vengeance burned in his eyes. Rudra, calm down. You can deal with those guys later for now. Just spend some time with your sister. She needs her family now, Guy said as grabbed Rudra's shoulder. He is right, Rudra. You can deal with them later for now. Go spend some time with Lucia. Rimuru also agreed on this. While revenge is necessary, it isn't as important as calming down Lucia. As a mother, how could she go into a coma while her daughter is still a newborn? Someone needs to reassure her of her daughter's safety. Rudra nodded as he walked towards the barrier. His steps were very slow as tears still ran down his face. Unlike the rest, he is still a human who didn't even live a century yet. You two go too, Rimuru said as she looked at Velgrind and Velzard. Like Rudra, they're also crying. While they lived long enough to be considered immortal. But even then they couldn't watch their brother going into a coma. After they left, Rimuru made a silencing barrier that covered everyone. She then looked at them and said, Hey, Guy, did you remember when I became the ruler of the underworld, I made a promise to you all? Guy nodded and answered, Yes, you promised us that you would let us be of use to you. Well, it seems I have to cash in that promise. When I was dealing with those pests, I found some interesting information. Rimuru said as her eyes narrowed. They had 2 goals. One is to capture Lucia, to threaten Rudra, and lastly to sell Mlim to their sponsor. The one who supplied them with tools necessary to cast a barrier that targets Lucia's magic. Her tone was laced with unimaginable anger as she muttered those words. From what Rimuru found out, this operation was too planned. The barrier they used was specially made to counter Lucia. And the Eastern Empire isn't that advanced in technology and didn't have such methods yet. So you all use every resource you want and find out who is the one pulling the strings. And for this mission, I will temporarily allow any demon to leave the underworld without any physical bodies. Do you have any questions? Rimuru said as she looked at the 8 primordial demons. The demons knelt and bowed as they said, Know your wishes are our command, Queen. And saying so they all disappeared. This is the first time Rimuru had issued such an order to the whole demon realm. And so none of them wanted to fail this mission. After the demons left, she turned to the angels. Especially Dino, who was clenching his fists in anger and his self-deprecation. He was supposed to guard Veldonava, but he failed his duties. For the angels, I will give you a choice. Those who want to stay with Veldonava can go and see him. And for those who want revenge, find out where the rebels are hiding. Rimuru said as she looked at them. Unlike the demons, she couldn't really order them since they are Veldonava subordinates. So she can only offer choices to them. The 7 of them looked at each other and discussed it. And finally, it was decided that Dino, Pico, and Gracia would join the investigation. Good, you 3 come with me after Veldonava is forced into a coma, Rimuru said as she walked towards Veldonava again. As for the others, they didn't say anything as they knew what their roles were. Since most of them are either progenitors of their own races, they had the duty of finding out if any of their kin is responsible for this. If they're accomplices, they need to hand them over, or else they would face the wrath of the true dragons and face annihilation. For the next 2 hours, the true dragons didn't move away from Veldonava and Lucia. They stayed with them until the couple couldn't stay awake. But before Veldonava was forced into unconsciousness, he created a small pet dragon for his daughter. As for Mlim's custody, it was given to Rimuru. This surprised Rimuru as she imagined her brother would give Mlim to Rudra. When she asked about this, Veldonava gave a small smile and said, "My dear little sister, you are underestimating yourself too much. Amongst everyone, you are the best person who could raise Mlim. And Mlim could be safest if she was with you. Yes, if Rimuru is with Mlim, then Veldonava could be sure that even if the whole world is burned, Mlim would be unharmed. As the person who knew Rimuru the best, Veldonava could be sure of this. In fact, if Veldonava was the younger sibling, Rimuru would have not let him live alone. She would make sure he is protected, even if it meant earning his displeasure. After Rimuru put Veldonava's and Lucia's bodies in her imaginary space, she, while carrying Mlim in her hands, came back to the restaurant. The pet dragon was carried by Veldora, as he was quite heavy despite just being born. After Rimuru tucked Mlim in her crib, she came out of the room. When she appeared, all of the people looked at her. The demons have just come after finding out who the true mastermind is. Rimuru looked at Guy and asked, "So who is it?" Although her voice was normal, Guy and the others couldn't help but shiver when they heard it. Guy hurriedly explained. It was one of the high human kingdoms. One of the princes wanted Mlim as she had the blood of the true dragons. "So they wanted to make my niece a lab rat?" Rimuru asked, her aura slowly being released. If Guy and the others felt her earlier mood was bad, now they could say that she is furious, and her anger barely held back. "Primordials," Rimuru said. Her eyes glowed as she once again used her authority as the queen of the underworld. "Yes, my queen." Guy and the rest of the primordials knelt immediately as they waited for her orders. "Lead your men and bring those who are responsible for this. Make sure to cause a big commotion. Make the cardinal realize the terror demons bring. And when you capture those scum who are responsible and make them experience the tortures our demons are proud of," Rimuru declared. The primordials had a bloodthirsty smile as they all said in unison, "Your order shall be done, my queen." Rimuru then looked at Dino and Rudra. "Rudra, in 3 days, I want the rebels in your empire to perish. If you can't do it publicly, make Dino do it himself. This is his punishment for not being able to protect Veldonava when he needed him the most." Rudra and Dino nodded as they agreed to her request. Especially Dino when he heard that this is his punishment. Pico and Gracia, who were silent, suddenly knelt, asked Rimuru, "Lady Rimuru, may we assist Dino in his punishment?" Rimuru looked at them before nodding. "Okay, you may. But remember, everyone who is responsible for my brother's death must die." "Yes, Lady Rimuru." Both Gracia and Pico nodded. "Go then clean up the filth that dared to harm the creator of this world. Make them realize how foolish their actions are," Rimuru said as she assured them away. "Yes," everyone said as they all left the restaurant to do their duties. Rimuru then looked at her siblings. Earlier, she didn't give them any orders since they are pretty much overkill. But it seems they needed some way to vent. Rimuru sighed and said, "Go to the high human kingdom and let out some steam. Make sure you don't hinder the demons. Or you guys could wait till the culprits are captured to torture them yourself." The 3 siblings looked at each other. After a few seconds, they all said, "We will pass. We want to stay here with Mlim and Big Sister. Clearly Rimuru is the most hurt amongst them all, but she willingly stayed here to look after Mlim and not go to the Cardinal World to vent her anger. While this is going, how could they go and leave her alone? I see, Rimuru said as she breathed a sigh of relief internally. Earlier when she gave the order to the demon, she hoped they would spare some of the innocents. But after looking at her siblings' expressions, she resolved herself to the inevitable. But she was glad to hear their choice. Even when she is thousands of years old, she never liked to get innocents in danger. Everything is in order, Guy-sama. I open my eyes, hurrying Misery's words. My minions have already infiltrated the kingdom, and as soon as I gave the signal, they will start the operation. Blank, who is also known as Testarossa, said as she tapped the table with her finger. Kukuku on my side is also perfect, Diablo said with his iconic laugh. My men are always ready for a fight, Carrera said with a sadistic smile. My boys are on standby in case any reinforcements arrive, Sophia said as she looked at Guy. Hee, I can't wait to try my new skills on our new toys, Ultima said, her eyes shining with excitement like a little girl waiting for her new toy she was going to play with. Then let's start the invasion. Testarossa commands your men to open the demon gate. Diablo, your men will infiltrate inside to capture the prisoners. Have Testarossa's men supply you with their locations. Carrera, your demons will be taking the front line. Sophia, your men will be guarding the borders so as not to let the other kingdom interfere with this plan. Ultima, make sure the prisoners would get our specialties. Rimuru-sama wanted to feel what sort of mistake they did. If any troublesome enemies appear, one of us will go there and deal with them. Remember, we can't let Rimuru-sama down, Guy said as he looked at everyone. Everyone nodded and went to do their jobs. And so the incident that marked the terror of demons started. While Guy and the rest of the primordials were initiating their attack on the high human kingdom, Rudra and the rest were not sitting idly either. Especially Rudra. As soon as he came to the royal palace, he launched a full search on the whole capital for spies and traitors. And with him personally taking charge of this operation, numerous spies were found and captured. This made Rudra finally realize how naive he was. Although he was an excellent ruler, as a person born in the peaceful era of Japan, he had never seen how the dark world is. Dino here is the list of people and kingdoms that are responsible for the attack, Rudra said, as he gave a list to Dino and his companions to see. Wow, this sure is a lot, commented Pico as she looked at the list in surprise. She turned to Rudra and couldn't help but ask, are you sure you ruled this empire? I mean, how did you even rule in first place if this many people hated you? Arg, Rudra felt invisible arrows hit him as he heard Pico's words. He too was shocked to learn how much of an opposition he had. It doesn't matter how much of a bad ruler he is. For now, we will finish our mission. Rudra, tell me who are the ones I should deal with, Dino said indifferently. For him, how Rudra rule his kingdom is not his business. He was here to finish his punishment. Rudra sighed and explained his plan. He would deal with the politics and stuff, so he wanted Dino and the rest to kill off the rulers and masterminds. If not for his status as the emperor, he too would have joined in on the hunt. I see. Pico, Garasha, get ready. We are leaving. We should be able to finish it in a day, Dino said as he left with his friends. That day the whole empire was thrown into chaos. Not only were numerous leaders of different kingdoms killed in cold blood, numerous people went missing. In the future, this day would be remembered as the day of chaos, as the whole Cardinal World witnessed the actions of the chaos creator who took the blame for everything. Rimuru sat near the balcony as she looked at the night sky. On her hand was Mlim, who was sleeping peacefully. She was finally alone. Veldora and Rest had departed to their rooms to get some rest. Like her, they too were tired. While Rimuru was gazing at the night sky, she suddenly felt a massive influx of souls coming towards her. It took her a moment to realize that these are the dead humans who recently suffered under primordials. Normally, when demons kill humans, they devour their souls almost instantly. Since souls could help them grow stronger, demons go on a rampage just for souls. This is a basic instinct for them. But Guy and the rest didn't even touch them, as they sent everything towards Rimuru. Rimuru was satisfied with their work, so made a mental note to reward everyone later. Maybe she should evolve some demons who have the qualifications. While she was thinking about this, she felt another influx of souls coming from another direction. Using her senses, she realized it came from the direction the Eastern Emperor is. It seems Ridra and Dino have also started their hunt. Unlike demons, humans and angels do not have authority to get stronger by souls. So unless they would collect the souls themselves by some method, it usually goes to the voice of the world. And Rimuru, who is in charge of souls, could feel it if the normal flow is disrupted. With the speed they're going at, I think everything would be over today. Rimuru murmured as she felt deep into thought. This incident would shake the whole Cardinal World. And that is something everyone knew. But no one other than a few people who were present at that time knew the full story. The High Humans and the rebels didn't know that Veldonava and Lucia's supposed death would be the catalyst for their doom. But soon everyone would find the Aina, and out of this sooner or later. And Rimuru didn't want to tarnish Veldonava's reputation as God. To a normal person, God being killed by some humans is utter blasphemy. And Rimuru didn't want this incident to destroy her brother's reputation. Due to her interference, the true dragons didn't have a terrible reputation as they did earlier. At least Veldora didn't, as he was mostly living here. While she was thinking about this, Ciel came towards her with 2 cups of hot chocolate. She gave one to Rimuru and took a seat near her. Rimuru sipped her drink before saying, "Ciel, do you have a way to protect my brother's dignity? While we killed off most of the responsible people, we still can't hide the truth forever." Ciel contemplated for a bit before saying, "Master, would you like to seal everyone's memories about Veldonava? That way, until he is resurrected, his dignity as God would not be tarnished." "No, that would be too cruel. Even if you managed to do that, how would one explain to Mlim who her dad is? And those dragon faithful would completely lose their hope if they suddenly realize that they can't remember their god." Rimuru disagreed with her immediately. Erasing someone's identity is too scary, especially when there are people who depend on that person. The dragon faithful who are Mlim's future subordinates are people who worshipped the true dragons, and by that she meant Veldonava. When they suddenly lose that faith, their whole lives would be a mess. They would lose their meaning and do something drastic. Hinata is a prime example of this. When she found out about Luminous's true identity, she rushed towards to fight a true demon lord. "Then, Master, I have another solution, but I am very much against it," Ciel said with a bit of hesitation. "Well, what is it?" Rimuru asked curiously. After hesitating for a bit, Ciel said, "Master, what if you take the blame for Veldonava's disappearance? Since you already have a terrible reputation amongst the general population, I think most human nations accept this as the truth." "I see," Rimuru said as she fell deep into thought. Frankly speaking, she didn't care much about her reputation since she isn't the ruler of Tempest anymore. So Ciel's suggestion is very suitable for her. "Hey Ciel, how would you implement this plan?" Rimuru asked as she eyed Ciel. "Of course it is by using the demons. I will make a legion of demons attack some kingdoms and spread a rumor. The rumor will travel towards every place in the Cardinal World. We could also use some monsters to make it more reliable. With Master's reputation as the chaos creator, the probability of this plan succeeding is 95%. Ciel said, as if it was a matter of fact. "Will this work? You know, when we first did this, we had the support of Dwargen, Blumend, and Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian's help." Rimuru asked in a worried tone. She could still remember that when Tempest was first attacked, they used a similar strategy to put the blame on Veldora. While this time they were doing the opposite, the operation wasn't easy. And that operation was successful largely due to the efforts of Dwargen, Blumend, and Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarion. "Worry not, Master. I will handle it," Ciel said confidently. "Okay, Ciel, I will leave it to you," Rimuru said as she nodded her head. She trusts Ciel's ability. After all, this is her partner who we are talking about. "Okay, Master," Ciel nodded as she left to do her duties. Although she didn't like to make her master's reputation more terrifying, she would begrudgingly do it, since it is the only way. After she walked out the house, she teleported herself to where Sophia, the pink primordial, is. Looking around, she saw that demons are still massacring the High Humans. Ciel's presence was instantly noticed by everyone. Sophia, who came near her and knelt down as she asked, "We greet Ciel Sama. May I ask why you came to the battleground?" The demons also knelt following their progenitor's lead. Ciel looked at her and said, "The plan has been changed a little. I want you to spread a rumor with your legion." "If I may ask, what would be that?" Sophia asked, still kneeling. "I want you to spread a rumor that Veldanava, the god of the Cardinal World, has gone into seclusion after he was fatally wounded by the Chaos Creator. The demons and monsters who are subjects of the Chaos Creator are celebrating their victory by massacring the residents of this world," Ciel said, shocking everyone. Although Sophia wanted to ask a few questions, she didn't dare to after seeing Ciel's look. Unlike Rimuru, Ciel was indifferent towards everyone. So the demons knew that to Ciel they were just insignificant ants. And honestly, they don't have any problem with that. The demons' hierarchy is absolute. No demons would dare disrespect anyone in a higher rank to them. That is, unless they are from the black lineage who are known to be oddballs. But even those guys wouldn't dare to disrespect Rimuru. This is an absolute rule that no demons would dare break. Sophia quickly went to do what she was ordered. And with the help of her legion, they were able to spread the rumor very quickly. And by tomorrow morning, the whole continent would hear the rumor of the god Veldanava being injured by the Chaos Creator. Most people felt utter despair as they heard this news. Although Veldonava is rarely seen, he was recognized as the strongest being in the whole Cardinal World. And his reputation amongst the general population is way better than what Rimuru has. So for the upcoming years, the Cardinal World will be filled with negative emotions, such as fear and despair. If it was not for Rudra's existence, as a hero many would have already lost hope. Guy Crimson, who is known as the Lord of Darkness, is a demon lord who serves the Chaos Creator. And Rudra is the hero who protects everyone from him. So unless the Chaos Creator herself comes in person, humanity has a chance to survive. This situation made humanity realize how valuable a hero is. This made most of the rulers from the Western countries begin to forge relations with the Eastern Empire, no matter what they need to strengthen their relations with Rudra in case the demons suddenly start attacking them. While they were doing that, they also try to find ways to summon their own heroes. Everyone knew that Rudra was the first otherworlder who was summoned by one kingdom that was under the threat of Guy Crimson. If they too managed to summon their own hero, then they would have enough insurance against the Lord of Darkness. And if they have enough people, they might even be able to increase their military strength. But no one knew that they could not summon any otherworlders without the permission of Rimuru or Ciel. So even if they wanted to, they could never create a powerful army of otherworlders. After Ciel was done doing her task, she went back to the restaurant. While on her way, she was deep in thought. Although she expected it, she didn't think Veldonava would truly exhaust his soul completely during the fight. If they had been even a little bit late, his soul may have already shattered. If that happened, all the preparation they made would go down the drain completely. During the wedding, Ciel and Rimuru created a special soul corridor while the couple was taking their vows. This was so in a likely case of both Veldonava and Lucia dying to the enemy. With the soul corridor, Rimuru could resurrect both of them by sacrificing a bit of her magicules as their souls would go straight towards her. This was supposed to be a foolproof plan. Ciel even created a book of soul arts for them to practice for their souls to be more strengthened. There are numerous techniques that are used for enhancing one's soul, but Ciel miscalculated a little. While Veldonava practiced the offensive techniques, he completely ignored the defensive techniques. Maybe his overconfidence came from the fact that he had a chance to use Uriel if it was necessary. Fortunately, Lucia seemed to practice some enhancing soul arts, as she was able to stay alive even after her ultimate skill burned most of her soul to heal her. If a normal were to do what she did, they would die before they could even realize what happened. And, of course, Raphael was also a part of why Lucia survived. Ciel knew how much of a perfectionist Raphael could be. She was once called that, after all. It was due to her perfect handling of the soul that no wastage was done, making the consumption to a minimum. I need to think of more protective measures for Mlim's Kato sphere that is about to come, Ciel thought gravely. Veldonava's and Lucia's incident was like a wake-up call for her. She didn't want to rely on luck like this time, and she knew if something really happened to Mlim, Rimuru would go on a rampage completely different from what she did earlier. Mlim was her best friend and little sister in her previous life. One could say that apart from Veldora, the person Rimuru cared the most is Mlim. Children were always the Rimuru's soft spot. So if any harm was done to Mlim, even Ciel dared to think what Rimuru would do. Especially now that Rimuru is a true dragon who has a direct relation to Mlim. I must never let my master worry again, Ciel thought as her eyes glowed in a determined light. A situation like what happened today must never repeat itself. This is something Ciel vowed herself. Did everything go according to plan, Ciel? Rimuru's voice broke her out from her deep thoughts. It seemed she arrived at her destination and did not realize it until now. Yes, everything is going well. Sophia and her demons have already made the rumor popular in various nations. Soon everyone would learn of this and accept this as the truth, Ciel said. I see, Rimuru said as she looked at Mlim with a complicated expression. If one day Mlim learns of this, she wonders how she will react. Rimuru knew that Mlim would go away from this restaurant someday to travel around the world. So even if she could stop anyone from saying anything unnecessary to Mlim in the restaurant, she couldn't stop it if she heard about this during her travels. Let's just hope Mlim won't do something rash at that time. After all, with me guiding her, she won't be as stupid as her father in the future. Rimuru as she gently caressed Mlim's head. Years went by like a flash. With various nations allying themselves with Rudra, the Eastern Empire began to grow at an astonishing speed. It was now called the Hope of Humanity, as it was now the strongest empire in the entire continent. Even the ancient kingdom of elves, which has the greatest technology, couldn't contend with the Eastern Empire with their military might at all. After all, there is no one who could beat Rudra, who is equal in strength to Guy. While the Cardinal World changed entirely the same couldn't be said to the underworld. Apart from the increase in a few archdemons, nothing changed. While not surprising, since most of the demons who are in the underworld are only lower-class demons. Unlike greater demons, or archdemons, lower-class demons are quite similar to animals. They mostly rely on their instincts to survive. They, like all demons, obey the strong. So they always fight amongst each other to create their own hierarchy. It is this cycle that allows them to grow stronger and achieve evolution to a greater demon who has intelligence. After evolution, they slowly began to refine their battle techniques and fight amongst other greater demons and lower demons and consume souls to try to evolve into an archdemon. After one is evolved into an archdemon, they begin to stop listening to their instincts and use their intelligence. Some go and serve the primordials and make their own army under that primordial, while some begin to follow their own paths they come across. Whether it is to become a grandmaster swordsman or a master craftsman, it does not matter. But even then, their thirst for strength didn't extinguish. As the saying goes, the older the demon is, the more stronger they are. For countless years, they sharpen their abilities and try their best to evolve into a demon peer. While demons lived their own lives, the restaurant, that was in a special dimension, was bustling as ever. Although it was closed for nearly a week after Veldonava's disappearance, the regulars didn't stop coming there as soon as they heard it was open for business again. As soon as the doors were opened, customers flooded the whole place. The food Ciel makes is something people would die for. And during these past years, the restaurant regulars had something else to look forward to apart from the delicious food. Mlim. An angry shout rang in the house as Rimuru screamed. On her hand is an empty glass bottle that had some cookie crumbs on the bottom. A little head popped up from behind the wall. She had long pink hair that was tied into a twin tail. Her blue eyes were filled with innocence, like she had nothing to do with anything that's happening. Next to her, another head popped out. But unlike the last head this time, it was a small dragon head. It had shining, bright blue scales that resembled Veldonava quite a bit. Rimuru looked at the small Mlim and pointed to the empty cookie bottle and demanded, "Mlim, what happened to the cookies I put inside this bottle? I clearly remember that it was full of cookies yesterday." Mlim looked away and said while trying her hard to whistle, "I don't know." "Oh, really now?" Rimuru asked again as she put her hands on her hips. She glared at Mlim, making her gulp audibly. It was Velgaia. He ate all of it, Mlim suddenly said as she pointed at her comrade. She had no remorse in betraying her partner in crime. Velgaia was stunned as he looked at his sister/master with shocked eyes. He then looked at Rimuru and shook its head vigorously. He tried his best to express his innocence with body languages, as he could not talk yet. Rimuru didn't even twitch as she saw the backstabbing scene. If she learned one thing in her second life, is that amongst the 4 problem children, Mlim and Ramiris could be ranked the highest in their shamelessness. Those two would have no shame as they quickly betray each other to escape from punishment after they are caught. The times Rimuru witnessed, it were so numerous that Rimuru stopped giving them any chance to explain themselves. Really, then why are there cookie crumbs on your face, Mlim? Rimuru asked as she looked at Mlim with a raised eyebrow. Mlim reflexively tried to clean the cookie crumbs, and her hands froze as she realized that there were none on her face. She and Velgaia ate cookies during the night, so there were obviously no crumbs on their faces. So, you got any more excuses? Rimuru asked as she brought the paper fan she kept in her imaginary space. Mlim and Velgaia huddled together as they looked at Rimuru's paper fan with fear. Mlim tried to negotiate as she said, "And can we talk about this?" Rimuru smiled coldly and said, "Well, we will talk after I am done dishing some punishment to 2 naughty children." And soon a beating was delivered to the duo. It did not matter how much study their innate defenses were. As soon as Rimuru's paper fan hit them, they both screamed in pain. This is the legendary punishment paper fan that was used to deliver punishment to anyone. And apart from Rimuru, almost everyone in the True Dragon family had tasted this fan's wrath. It is a god-level weapon that will ignore any defense until it lands on the target. Fortunately, its offensive power is almost 0, as it doesn't even give any red marks. But the pain is real, so not many would like to taste it unless they're a group of masochists. After 10 minutes, Rimuru was finished disciplining both children. So put the paper fan back into her imaginary space. Well, I hope you would think twice before emptying the cookie bottle again. Although Rimuru said that she didn't have that much hope in it. This isn't the first time this happened, and this certainly wouldn't be the last. Now be a dare and help me bring these dishes to the dinner table. We need to open the restaurant soon. Yes, came Mlim's reply as she dragged her body to the kitchen. Velgaia also flowed her as it used his 2 small wings to fly a little. Thankfully, it had a body structure similar to an Easter dragon, so it was quite light. Looking at their departing backs, Rimuru fell into deep thought. It's almost near Mlim's birthday, so I need to bake some more cookies to serve her that day. I just hope her 15th birthday wish wouldn't be too much of a troublesome thing for me to do. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to our dear Mlim. Happy birthday to you, everyone said while clapping as they watched Mlim blow out the candles. Today was Mlim's 15th birthday, and Ciel made a 5-layered cake especially for her. Come on now, eat it and tell us whether you like it or not, Rimuru said as she encouraged her to take a bite. So how was it? Rimuru asked with a smile. Well, she didn't need to ask that question as Mlim's wide grin was all the proof they needed to know how much she liked the cake. It's delicious. This is the best birthday ever, Mlim said as she jumped happily. I think you said that your last birthday was the best. Wait, was it the one earlier? Veldonava asked as he thought about it. But he thought a lot about it as he was slapped on the head. Ivaraj, who slapped him, said exasperatedly, "She always says that each birthday." "Oh, that's right, I forgot about that, Kuahaha," Veldonava said with his usual laugh. "Honestly, I think you are more of a child than Mlim. When will you even grow up?" Ivaraj said with a resigned voice. With all those years she was with him, he didn't change one bit. If anything, he seemed to have gotten even more childish. "Kuaha, now, don't say that. I know you like me just the way I am," Veldonava said with a cheeky grin. After reading all those romance mangas, he picked a skill or 2, and, just as he expected, Ivaraj's face turned red and looked away from him. "What are you saying, you dummy?" she said in a small, barely audible voice. Veldonava's grin widened as remembered a saying his elder brother said, "Girls are cutest when they are all shy and embarrassed," and he wholeheartedly agreed to that statement. While Veldora and Ivaraj flirted with each other, they completely forgot where they were. Rimuru had to cover Mlim's ears while she was eating the whole cake from hearing their conversation and get diabetes. While Velzard and Velgrind were looking at Veldora in amazement. They never knew their little brother is such a smooth talker. They couldn't help but looking at their own husbands and was instantly enraged. Guy and Rudra were playing a video game at the side. They were like two teenage kids who came to have a slumber party. They completely forget about their partners as soon as they meet each other. These two need to understand who they are married to, Velzard and Velgrind thought with annoyed expressions. They are worried that if they left these two alone for long, they might even get married. Rimuru, who was watching all this, had a smile. A family bonding time like this was quite rare these days. Due to the fact both humans and demons' war was at its peak, she didn't see these four for quite a while. If only Veldanava and Lucia were here, then everything would be perfect, she thought with a sad smile. As though she was sensing Rimuru's sadness, Mlim, who was eating, stopped and looked at Rimuru. She then took a piece and presented it to Rimuru and said, "Auntie Rimuru, you don't have to be so sad. Here's a piece for you." Even Velgaea picked up a small piece with its tiny claws, imitating Mlim. Rimuru chuckled as she ate the pieces of cake that were presented to her. She would never say no to a piece of cake after all. After she ate the delicious cake, Rimuru looked at Mlim's adorable face and asked excitedly, "So Mlim, what time it is?" Mlim tilted her head, asked cutely, "Isn't it party time?" Rimuru chuckled at her adorableness. She then said while pinching Mlim's nose, "Not quite. What do we do when we are finished eating the cake?" Mlim's face lit up as she said, "It's time to unwrap the gifts." "Yep, that's right," Rimuru said as she showed the big gift box that was placed in a corner to Mlim. Mlim excitedly ran towards it. She then began to use her hands to unwrap it in a matter of seconds. When she opened the box, she couldn't help herself from screaming in excitement. At the center, there is a black kimono with elaborate gold and purple detailing and wide, flowing sleeves edged with gold patterns. White fur trim lines the shoulders, adding a touch of opulence. A purple belt with intricate patterns and a delicate white flower design at its center is included to cinch the waist. Gold and red arm guards with ornate designs are also present, blending decoration and protection. Completing the ensemble is a golden crown with a central red gem and two smaller protruding spikes, ready to adorn the wearer with a majestic touch. Mlim turned to Rimuru and asked excitedly, "Auntie Rimuru, is this really for me? Can I really have this?" Rimuru nodded with a smile. She and Ciel went through an extra mile to make those clothes. Those clothes are made from a divine spider's silk, so they are very comfortable for the wearer. Furthermore, these clothes are quite sturdy, and after a few years, they would be indestructible after being bathed in Mlim's aura. And most of all, they are stylish. Rimuru always wanted to make Mlim wear some good clothes and not go around in her swimsuit like Get Up. But she was strangely adamant of not changing her outfit those days. So Rimuru thought this time she might as well change that. "You guys are the best," Mlim said as she hugged Rimuru and Ciel. "Haha, as long as you like it," Rimuru said as she ruffled her hair. After a while, Mlim went back to see what else was inside the big box. After rummaging through a bit, she found some more presents. There was some shiny and beautiful jewelry, some picture books with some manga in the mix, some toys like action figures from her favorite manga, etc. After seeing all those gifts, she turned to the rest of the party and said with a happy smile, "Thanks everyone, I love everything you gave me." This brought a smile into everyone's faces. Mlim's charm is too much for anyone to bear. She is a bundle of joy that lights up everyone's day. This is the best day ever, Mlim thought with a happy smile. She likes it when everyone is with her. But sadly, they would only come here twice a month or year. When she asked about this, her auntie Rimuru told her that they are quite busy to come here every day. "I know, why don't I go and meet them next time?" Mlim thought. She was quite curious about what the outside world looks like after reading all those mangas. "I will ask Aunt Rimuru about it tomorrow." Mlim decided. She would ask about it first thing in the morning and give her dear Aunt Rimuru a headache. "So let me get this straight. You want to go visit your other uncle and aunts all by yourself?" Rimuru asked while feeling a headache coming over her. Although she knew this day would come, she certainly didn't think it was this early. Originally, Rimuru was going to let Mlim go to the Cardinal World when she is a bit mature. Maybe after she is 18 years old. After all, she didn't think trapping Mlim here for the rest of her life was the best decision. No matter what she is destined to do, she needs the experience to live her life. Strength isn't everything in this world. Rimuru sighed before looking at Mlim with a serious expression. Mlim, while your idea to visit them is sweet, did you think of the dangers you could get into while doing that? Mlim tilted her head and asked, isn't it just going to see them? Why would there be anything dangerous, Ani? Sighing at her ignorance, Rimuru explained. My dear, you should know both Rudra and Guy are leaders of two opposite camps. Their factions have been fighting more than hundreds of years, so you may get involved in their conflicts. And if you were hurt because of that, I would go and destroy both of them. So tell me, do you still want to go? Hearing this, Mlim hurriedly shook her head. She knew the hierarchy of this family. Everyone has to listen to Ani Rimuru, or they will be punished. She once saw Uncle Veldora being punished, and that still brought her nightmares. He was banned from reading any manga and eating any sweets for an entire week. He was even banned from going to the Cardinal World. And furthermore, he was ordered to improve his strength in that week, or his punishment will be extended for another week. Well, it wouldn't be a problem if you were strong enough, Rimuru said as she looked at Mlim's fearful face. She didn't want Mlim to think that she was banning her from leaving. Really, does that mean I can go? I'm already strong, Mlim said excitedly as she showed her fists. What she said was true. Although Rimuru didn't allow her to go to the Cardinal World, she occasionally let Mlim train with lower-class demons. And with her raw power, she often destroys them in seconds. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, Mlim, but you aren't that strong enough to survive in the Cardinal World, Rimuru said, shaking her head. Although Mlim's raw power is strong enough to defeat an A-rank monster, but that much isn't enough to survive in the Cardinal World, especially with her background. Mlim was disappointed yet again hearing her aunt's words. If it was someone else, she would have dismissed it as them underestimating her. But if Rimuru said it, she had to be true. Well, worry not, I will train you, so you would be strong enough to survive on your own, no matter the circumstance, Rimuru said as she looked at Mlim's face light up yet again. This girl is just like her mother, Rimuru thought as she remembered Lucia's expressions changes like Mlim. Should I also try to teach her healing magic? Rimuru thought suddenly. Lucia was an excellent healer, and her aptitude towards life magic is something even Ciel had to marvel at. And as Lucia's daughter Mlim may have a similar aptitude towards life magic. In her previous life, Mlim didn't use much magic. Her main fighting ability is her swordsmanship and her handling of stellar mana. And apart from those two, Rimuru had never seen Mlim using any magic at all, not even a simple light spell. Well, it's worth a try, Rimuru thought as she instructed Ciel to make a training regime for Mlim. When it comes to getting the best results, Ciel is the best. The next day, wake up, Mlim. It's time for training, Rimuru said as she stirred Mlim from her sleep. At Rimuru's continuous efforts, Mlim finally woke up. Why do we have to wake up this early, Aunt, when the sun hasn't even risen yet? Mlim said as she rubbed her eyes sleepily. Vegaya too joined as it mimicked Mlim. When Rimuru was waking up Mlim, she also woke Velgaya up too, who was beside her. Rimuru looked at them speechless and asked, Hey, I wasn't the one who said they wanted to grow stronger so they could go to the material world. And besides, we have a restaurant to open. Sorry. Hurry up and get dressed in your training gear. After that, meet me in the arena, Rimuru said as she handed a pair of specially made training clothes to Mlim. Mlim grumbled as she wore those clothes. Although they are very comfy, Mlim felt they were a bit too bland. They looked like track suits she came across in those mangas. As she headed toward the arena, she began to get the feeling that her body is getting a bit heavier. She turned to Velgaya and asked, Hey Gaia, did you feel it's getting a bit harder to move? It's like we're getting heavier all of a sudden. Velgaya tilted its head as she pondered on what Mlim said. Then it shook its head after sensing nothing. It didn't feel anything strange. Really, but I feel myself getting a bit slower, Mlim said as she furrowed her brows. Her instincts were telling her something was wrong. Velgaya said as it looked at Mlim. Due to it still being a youngling, it couldn't speak yet. So baby sound was the best it could do for the moment. You mean I get that feeling because these clothes are too restrictive and not like the ones I usually wear, Mlim said as she translated what Velgaia wanted to say. Since both of them are practically inseparable, they could understand each other without any difficulty. And in short, apart from Mlim, no one could understand what Velgaia was saying. QQ, Velgaia nodded as though saying, yeah, that's right. Mlim thought about it for a long time before agreeing to what Velgaia said. His argument is reasonable after all, and besides they have already arrived at the door that leads to the arena. As she pushed the door open, Mlim was greeted with the familiar Greek arena. She would often come to play with Velgaia. In her, they would have no problem playing hide and seek after they changed the setting a little bit. As Mlim was in her own thoughts, she suddenly felt danger coming towards her from the side. She wasted no time as she grabbed Velgaia and jumped away. Rimuru always told her to trust her instincts as it would help her in times of need. Just as Mlim jumped away, a dagger appeared where she was previously and impaled itself on the ground. Had Mlim been a step too late, she would have been seriously injured. Just as Mlim was about to breathe a sigh of relief, another dagger was flying towards her, prompting her to dodge again. This went on for half an hour. Numerous daggers came down on her seemingly from nowhere. Even her prided Mlim eyes couldn't see where they were coming from. Hell, she couldn't even see them until the last moment. So she was continuously dodging with her reflex alone. So after 30 minutes, she is completely drenched in sweat. Just as she was about to use one of her AoE attacks, the attacking stopped. And Rimuru, who was supposed to be here before her, appeared in thin air. She looked at Mlim with a smile, while having a few knives on her hands that looked exactly like the dagger that was lying on the floor. Not bad, Mlim. You managed to last for a half an hour on your first day. Rimuru commented as she said with a chuckle. If she was being honest, she was enjoying this a bit too much. Well, you can't blame her, as Mlim once did the same thing to her too in the past. It was when Rimuru had still not ascended as a true demon lord, was a demon lord seed. If she remembered correctly, Mlim had just arrived at Tempest. One day, Rimuru was doing her training with Akuro and the rest when Mlim suddenly barged in and said that she wanted to train her. According to her, what Rimuru lacked is combat experience. Rimuru at that time thought it was a good idea and agreed to Mlim's proposal. Oh boy, did she regret it. As soon as they arrived at the special training ground, Mlim started to attack Rimuru like crazy. At that time, Rimuru barely managed to dodge her attacks, even when she was going easy on him. But even then, Rimuru was injured during every attack with the wind pressure alone. If he remembered correctly, he managed to last about an hour or two before his regeneration was stopped due to the insufficient magicules. She could still remember Mlim's words at that time. Haha, Rimuru, you are great. You actually managed to last this long on your first day. As expected, I am a great teacher. Rimuru felt much greater damage from her words than the whole fight. Call her petty, but she always wanted to say those words back to Mlim again. It's just that she didn't have an opportunity to do that. Ani is bullying me. Mlim's angry voice broke Rimuru from her thoughts. Looking at Mlim, she saw Mlim had tears on her eyes. Normally one would try very hard to calm her down, as nobody wanted to bear the moniker of child bully. But Rimuru, who practically raised Mlim by herself, knew Mlim is just faking it like she always does. So she said, well, it seems you are too weak to endure this level of training. It seems like we have to tough you up by cutting your sweet intake by half. We can't have you cry like this every day after all. Mlim, who was crying, suddenly stopped and said hurriedly, no, you don't have to do that. This training is just right for me. Oh, but what about the tears on your eyes? As your aunt, I can't let my niece cry like this every time you train. Rimuru said with an amused smile. Crying who said, I am crying, I just got some dust in my eye, so that's why it looked like I was crying, Mlim hurriedly said. She didn't dare to gamble with her sweets on the line. Well, if you say so, Rimuru said as she tried her best to stifle her laughter. Like Veldonava, Mlim always has some interesting excuses. Seeing Rimuru agreeing with her, Mlim breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. I almost lost half of my sweet, she thought as she wiped the sweat from her forehead. Mlim, the first lesson I would be teaching is how to handle your stellar mana. While you may have not known this, stellar mana is one of the most destructive magicules there is in this world. And you can infinitely regenerate stellar mana with your intrinsic skill Magicule Breeder Reactor. So this is the best advantage you have over anyone else. Rimuru said to Mlim. So does that I have this golden finger cheat that all those protagonists talk about in manga? Mlim asked excitedly. She liked to read manga from the isekai genre. Rimuru paused as she thought about it. Specifically speaking, Mlim's stellar mana and intrinsic skill is inherited from Veldanava. And since Veldonava is considered a god here, what she said is not wrong. That is negative. Mlim's intrinsic skill and stellar mana cannot be considered cheat. Although stellar mana could be deadly, it isn't all-powerful. Stronger beings like Guy and Rudra can suppress stellar mana with their battle aura. Unless Mlim gains her ultimate skill Lord of Wrath Cardinal, she cannot fully utilize the destructiveness of stellar mana, much less her own potential. Ciel said telepathically as she adjusted her imaginary glasses while being inside Rimuru. So, in the end, it still comes down to her getting that ultimate skill, Rimuru said internally. What Ciel said was logical. Stellar mana can be suppressed by stronger beings. Veldonava was an exception as he had millions, if not billions of years, to refine his control over stellar mana. And as Ciel said, for Mlim to fully display her potential, she needs an ultimate skill like Cardinal. But despite having these thoughts, Rimuru said to Mlim, whether your skills are your golden spoon is yet to be decided. Remember, every skill, no matter how weak it may sound, can be powerful depending on the situation. Remember what defines how strong skills are our capabilities on utilizing them. Understand, Ani Rimuru, Mlim said seriously. She read too many novels to make such a beginner-level mistake. If those protagonists can be the world's strongest by using their weak skills, so can she. Good, let me help show you a way to refine your control, Rimuru said as she began to instruct Mlim on how to refine her stellar mana. The denser she could make it, the better. Like this, 2 hours went by, and by that time Mlim was sweating furiously. Her mind was very tired with the training she did. Thankfully, she didn't have to do any physical exercises today, or else she would have collapsed from exhaustion. Okay, that's for today. You could take a break during the day, or you could challenge some demons who come here to get some more combat experience. But remember, if you're fighting, do it in the arena. Don't think of sneaking out to play. Rimuru warned her with a serious tone. She didn't want Mlim to go outside and bite more than she could chew. After all, in the underworld, high-ranking demons rarely stay alone. If they decided to gang up on Mlim, even she would be overwhelmed. The lack of combat experience is a sin in the underworld after all. The older they are, the stronger they become. Okay, I will not go outside. I promise, Mlim said, agreeing to Rimuru's words. Whether how long this promise would last would depend on how bored Mlim would get in the upcoming days. Mlim's training continued for the next 2 months. During these months, her control over stellar mana improved significantly. Seeing her improvement, even Velgeia, who didn't have much interest in training, began to join her. As the last creation of Veldonava, it too had the ability to handle stellar mana to a certain degree. But unlike Mlim, who had significant progress, its progress was quite slow. Well, this was expected as it didn't have an infinite amount of energy like Mlim to practice all day. But just when Velgeia was losing hope, Veldora came to the rescue. Yes, Veldora, despite being an idiot, is a great teacher. He trained Zijin into a fine warrior by teaching him his own created martial arts. His mystery over battle aura is second to none. And this time Veldora had millions of years to hone his abilities even more. So when he volunteered to train Velgeia, nor Rimuru or Ciel disagreed. A dragon is the best training partner for another dragon. And under Veldora's tutelage, Velgeia began to get stronger at a visible speed. Despite being unable to transform into a humanoid form, Velgeia managed to master battle aura. With the added buff from stellar mana, it began to display some fearsome talent in fighting close quarters. Today, like the usual, Mlim and Velgeia were doing their respective training. Rimuru suddenly announced, "Okay, Mlim, your control over your stellar mana is decent enough for now. Today I will teach you something else." Hearing her words, Mlim's eyes began to shine with intense curiosity and excitement. Frankly, she was getting pretty bored after doing the same training for 2 months. "Oh, tell me," she said excitedly as jumped around like a kid. Rimuru looked at her with a smile and said, "Well, now, don't get too excited. What I'm going to teach you is swordsmanship. Specifically speaking, this is the sword style your father created." "My father," Mlim mumbled. To her, her parents are a mystery. Whenever she asked about them, everyone would look away or try to change the subject. Hell, she wouldn't even know about having any parents if Rimuru didn't mention it on her 10th birthday. Although she didn't say much, she did reveal some basic information about her parents. Her father's name is Veldonava, and he is the elder brother of Aunt Rimuru, while her mother's name is Lucia, and her elder brother is Uncle Rudra, which makes her a princess. And apart from some rare times, Aunt Rimuru never mentions them again. So imagine her surprise when Aunt Rimuru gave her this golden opportunity to find more about her parents. "Aunt Rimuru was my father, a skilled swordsman," Mlim asked with a bit of expectation. Her first guess was that he might be a knight. In all the stories she read, only a knight had the chance to marry a princess. Rimuru chuckled as she said with a bit of nostalgia, "Yes, he was a very skilled swordsman. In fact, he was the one who taught your Uncle Rudra how to wield a blade. He was the only person who managed to contest with me with just pure swordsmanship. The swordsman style he invented is called the star breathing." Hearing the name, Mlim instantly wanted to ask a very important question, but before she could do so, Rimuru said, yes, the name was something he copied after reading the Demon Slayer manga. "That's so cool," Mlim said with excitement. She was about to learn a real breathing technique. Maybe she could become a Hashira after she masters this technique. Although Rimuru couldn't read minds, and that's BS, and you know it. She had been with Mlim for a long time to know how her mind works. With a resigned sigh, she thought, well, I just hope she doesn't go around finding demons to slay when she finally manages to go to the Cardinal World. Months went by in a blink of an eye. Mlim, under the guidance of Rimuru, slowly began to master star breathing. Even though this sword style was tailor-made for Mlim, she had some difficulty mastering it. Because to truly manifest the deadliness of star release, you would need to combine both stellar mana and battle aura in a ratio that will change each move. For example, if you're using a move that is used for defense, you must increase the ratio of the battle aura amount. And when you are on the defense, it is the stellar mana amount that should be increased, as with its destructive properties, could be very deadly. To do all this, one must need some good instincts or have the ability to do the necessary calculations each time. Unfortunately, Mlim belongs to the former, and unlike Veldonava, who had millions of years of experience, she had to start from the very basics. So it is safe to say that there were numerous explosions every few minutes. Had it not for Rimuru enhancing the protections Mlim had, she might have had some serious injuries that even her tough defense and regeneration couldn't fix. It was only after 2 years that she managed to barely use the star breathing without blowing herself. And it was then did Rimuru began to teach her how to properly use a sword. Previously, Mlim only did some basic stances. But don't misunderstand, the hardest part of stellar breathing is switching from offense to defense in a swift moment. The other moves are just some you would have to do to protect yourself. And even that is different depending on the situation. For example, the moves you need to block a strike that is coming from below and the moves you use when blocking a strike from the chest are completely different. But these two moves still carry the essence of defense. So no matter what cool moves you know, if you couldn't bring the suitable essence in your stance, you might as well fail as a stellar breathing swordsman. As I say, the basics are what matters most. If one couldn't master the basics correctly, then they have no opportunity to advance further. Sounds of sword clashing could be heard in the arena as 2 streaks of lights danced. One was a pink glow that is constantly on the offensive. The other is a purple glow that is receiving every attack with practice ease. These 2 glows are Mlim and Rimuru, who are having a spar. The reason they look like streams of light is because of their high-speed movements. Do note that none of them are using any magic, and this is a spar with pure swordsmanship. Don't force your swings, Mlim. Remember, let the sword come in its own flow. You forcing it will only increase the backlash, Rimuru instructed as she parried another one of Mlim's strikes. Mlim said nothing as she tried to deliver her next attack. This time her attack was even more fierce as she poured in some extra stellar mana. But Rimuru, just as usual, parried the attack and said, "Don't waste your magicules on such unnecessary attacks. It will just exhaust your mental energy. Use the force that your sword generates to power your attacks." Mlim nodded as she tried to do what Rimuru said. She tried to use the force that was generated by her sword to make her attacks way faster. "Mlim, don't forget your control. It is meaningless if you can't control your output, then you will just create an opening for your enemy to exploit," Rimuru said, as hit Mlim in the abdomen when she lost her balance due to not being able to control her sword strike perfectly. This went on for another hour or two. Rimuru would tell Mlim's shortcomings while she just defended herself. Similar to Veldanava, Rimuru too created her own sword style. Her swordsman style is called Tempest Sword Arts, and its essence is to adapt to the enemy's movements. This is the perfect style for her, who is constantly analyzing her opponent. Since Tempest Arts mainly focuses on defense, she had no problem being Mlim's test subject. "Okay, that's enough for today," Rimuru said as she sheathed her blade. They had been going at it for a few hours straight. "Okay," Mlim said with a disappointed tone. She didn't know that her swordsmanship had that many flaws. She was beginning to lose confidence. Rimuru seeing this sighed as she said, "Hey Mlim, why don't we go on a small field trip? It's been a while since we went anywhere." "Oh, where are we going?" Mlim asked as her mood changed to one of excitement. She really liked going on an adventure. Rimuru smiled and replied to the human world. "Huh, that's all Mim could say as she stood there with her mouth opened." "Wow, so this is the human world, huh?" Mlim said as she looked around with barely contained excitement. Had it not been for Rimuru holding her hand, Mlim might have run around to satisfy her curiosity. Yes, this is the human world, or what demons call the material world. More specifically speaking, we are in one of the many towns in the Western countries. Rimuru said as she explained to Mlim. Her perhaps is to spark the desire in Mlim, so Rimuru didn't hold back in her explanation. She knew Mlim would undoubtedly train even harder if she found out how much interesting the human world is. "Oh, then what's that?" Mlim said as she pointed to a stall. This street stall has a few targets hung on the wall, and there is also a sign that reads, "Pick a dart and win a prize. Only 5 coppers per 3 darts." "Oh, that is a stall that give prizes after they complete the challenge they give. Are you interested?" Rimuru asked with a smile. Mlim nodded her head repeatedly. She was super-duper interested. Laughing at Mlim's antics, Rimuru said, "Well then what are we waiting for? Let's go there immediately." And so she and Mlim both walked towards the stall. The stall was run by a middle-aged man. When he saw both Rimuru and Mlim walking toward his stall, he smiled and said, "Welcome. Would you like to try today's challenge? Hit 3 targets correctly and win a prize. It's only 5 coppers for 1 try." "We would like to try then," Rimuru said as she handed 5 copper coins to the man. The man smiled and gave her 3 darts. Taking the darts, she handed them to Mlim and said, "Here you can try, but remember to control your strength. One screw up, and we're going back immediately." Hearing her warning, Mlim smile turned stiff for a moment. She then confidently said, "Don't worry, Auntie Rimuru. I know how to hold back." "You better do," Rimuru said as she narrowed her eyes. She didn't have any confidence in Mlim's words, so she secretly gathered macules to interfere in case if it was necessary. Countless years of damage fixing is not something someone could scoff at. Mlim gulped as she took the darts. She then closed one eye and consecrated. After taking a dart to her right hand, she made a throwing gesture / after a few seconds, she threw the dart. The dart flew at astonishing speed and hit the target in the middle. "Amazing accuracy, young lady," the middle-aged man commented as he praised Mlim's efforts. "It isn't every day you see someone succeeding in their first try." Mlim didn't reply as she was still in deep concentration. She took another dart and threw it like the last one. Swish! The dart also hit the target right in the middle. And Mlim, continuing the momentum, threw her last dart, achieving another perfect shot. Yes, I did it, Mlim said excitedly as she jumped happily. Rimuru smiled as she clapped a little. Even the passerby who saw this also clapped at Mlim's success. Congratulations, little lady. What prize would you like? The middle-aged man smiled. Behind him, there were rows of various prizes for anyone to choose. Mlim rubbed her chin as she thought hard. After a few minutes of deep thinking, she pointed at a pink teddy bear. I would like that one, she said with a twinkle in her eyes. The man smiled and handed Mlim her prize. Here you go, little lady. Receiving her prize, Mlim laughed happily. She then showed it to Rimuru and said, Look, Aunt Rimuru, this is the prize I won. Rimuru smiled and said, Good for you, Mlim. Say, why don't we go to other stalls? I think I saw a dango stall over there, Rimuru said, pointing in a certain direction. Hearing the word dango Mlim's, I began to shine. She excitedly dragged Rimuru by her hand and ran toward the direction Rimuru just pointed at. Dango, here I come. Like that, both Rimuru and Mlim toured the whole town fully enjoying themselves. At the end of the day, Mlim had a renewed determination to complete her training. After enjoying herself today, she knew she wanted to experience this feeling again. That's it, Mlim, you're doing good so far, Rimuru said as she blocked Mlim's sword strike. It has been more than 5 years after their little trip to the human world. During these past few years, Mlim had been training more diligently than ever. Not only did she manage to master star breathing, she even managed to create her own sword attacks. If that wasn't impressive enough, she even managed to perfect her magical control, something the past Mlim wasn't able to do. Truthfully speaking, Rimuru wanted to give the go permission to Mlim 2 years ago, but it's Ciel words she delayed it. According to Ciel, these years are the best time for Mlim to reach her full potential. And Rimuru had to admit listening to Ciel's words was worth it. Mlim managed to increase her strength to a very high level without even having an ultimate skill. Not only is she more disciplined than her counterpart, she is even able to use magic to a controllable level and not destroy everything in her path. Psy kid sure grow up fast. You can even fight toe-to-toe with me when I'm not using magic. Rimuru said as she looked at Mlim, who was slumped on the ground. After a day-long training session, Mlim finally hit her limit. Does this mean I can go to the human world? Now Mlim asked while panting. This wasn't the first time she asked this question. Ever since she came back from the trip, she would ask this same question every day. Yes, you can go there tomorrow. Today you should pack everything you want to bring. Rimuru said as she sheathed her blade. You really mean it? Mlim asked as she stood up immediately. Rimuru could swear she saw Mlim's eyes shine like 2 stars. Yes, Mlim, I really mean it. So go now. First take a bath and pack your bag, Rimuru said as she chased Mlim away. Okay, come on, Gia, let's go, Mlim said as she dragged her friend away. After both of them left, Rimuru snapped her fingers. Then the arena where they just fought began to change. After a few seconds, it changed into a blacksmith shop. Black smoke came out of Rimuru's body, and in the next moment, it took the shape of Ciel. Rimuru looked at Ciel and asked, Do you think we have enough time to do it? Yes, according to my calculations, we have enough time. Mlim will be too preoccupied to notice our absence. Ciel said, Good, then let's get this started. Rimuru said as she stretched her muscles a bit. Yes, agreed. Ciel said as she changed their clothes into one of working wear. What they are about to do will inevitably make their clothes get dirty. Well then, Ciel, let's get our hands dirty, Rimuru said as she and Ciel began their newest project. The next day, Are you sure you want to bring all those things when you go out, Mlim? Evarge asked as she looked at the packing bag that was as big as a small room-sized mountain. And what the hell did you pack for the bag to be this huge? She asked in wonder. Due to some work, she and Veldonava went to the human world and came back a little late last night. So she went to sleep as soon as she came home. But when he woke up today and was about to head to the kitchen to make some coffee, and that's when she saw this huge backpack. Since Rimuru wouldn't pack like this, she knew the culprit should be Mlim. So when she saw Mlim, she directly questioned her. Don't worry, Aunt Iva, I can lift this with no problem. I'm super strong, you know, Mlim said while showing off her muscles. So I care to enlighten me on what you are bringing, Evarge asked as she had a headache. She swear Mlim is as stupid as her father. My clothes, my secret cookie stash, my whole collection of manga, with a whole cupboard my super comfy bed, and oh right, I almost forgot to pack Velgaea's snack. Mlim was listing out her stuff when she suddenly. Well, I realized she forgot to pack some other things too. She then went toward the kitchen to get Velgaea's snack packet. Evarge was speechless. She now understood why that bag was so large. Mlim practically packed everything in her room. If she didn't know any better, she would think Mlim is moving out for good. Arg, whatever, I let Rimuru deal with this shit, she said as pushed the troublesome stuff from her head. It's not like Mlim will go on her journey without Rimuru making sure she has everything she needs for the trip. And besides, she was sure Mlim would make up some absurd excuses that would make her speechless again. So, as they say, let the professionals handle it. Finally we managed to finish it in time. For a moment there, I thought we might not make it in time, Rimuru said as she used the towel to wipe out her sweat. That is impossible with my calculations. We would never be late, Ciel interjected as she pouted. She didn't know whether it was just her own thinking, but lately Rimuru seemed to have lost some credibility on her words. Well, I just hope Mlim would love her farewell gift, Rimuru said as she tried her best from looking at Ciel. She seems to have made Ciel upset, as there is a piercing glare on her back. Just as the atmosphere was about to get awkward, a pink blur dashed towards them. And just when it was about to collide with them, it suddenly stopped. Where are you guys? I searched all over for you too. The pink blur, who is also known as Veldonava, complained as she jumped around. Sorry about that, Mlim. Me and Ciel were caught up in a very important task. So did you pack everything you need for your trip? Rimuru said as she ruffled Mlim's hair. Come on, let me show you, Mlim said as she dragged Rimuru to show her packing bag. After both of them, a few minutes passed by in silence. Then Rimuru's shout reverberated in the whole house. Mlim, did you pack everything in your room for this bag to be this big? Ha! Hearing those words, Ciel, who was a bit, couldn't help but chuckle. Not want to miss the interesting show, Ciel, too, went towards where the commotion is happening. Mlim can make some very convincing arguments. After a very interesting argument, both Rimuru and Mlim arrived at a common ground where both of them could agree. Mlim would be allowed to bring some of her manga collection and a portable bed for her to camp in the wild in case she didn't manage to go to an inn. Due to modifications Rimuru did, Mlim's bag finally became small enough that no one would look weirdly at it for being too big. Although Mlim wasn't very happy about not being able to bring everything she wanted, she didn't complain. She really didn't want to push her luck. So I sure hope you don't cause too much trouble on your journey, Mlim, Rimuru said with a tired sigh. She really hoped Mlim would restrain herself on her journey. Why retrain and not cause any trouble? Please, Rimuru had long given up on that idea. The reason Mlim is given the title Destroyer is not just because she destroyed a city during her evolution. It's because she is the embodiment of destruction. No matter what she did, she would destroy something. Whether the destruction is small or big is just a matter of her mood at that time. In fact, the property damage done by Mlim when they were in Tempest is enough to make a normal family live comfortably for 200 years. Thankfully, Rimuru was rich, or even she would have gone bankrupt because of Mlim's actions. Don't worry, Aunt Rimuru. I'm very responsible, Mlim said while puffing out her chest. No way I'll believe that lie again, Rimuru thought as she heard that same excuse so many times she lost count. Sighing, Rimuru pondered what to do. Should she let a demon follow Mlim and issue compensation money to the people who are victims of Mlim's actions? But escaping Mlim's perception is no easy feat. If she found out that I sent someone to follow her, she may throw a tantrum. Just as she was mulling over this problem in Rimuru's field of vision, she caught sight of Velgaea, who was lazing around. Then a brilliant idea came to her mind. She then asked Ciel telepathically, "Hey Ciel, can you make a skill that would allow Velgaea to share his vision with others?" It is possible, but would you really trust Velgaea to keep quiet about this with Mlim? He may unexpectedly let it slip that we are monitoring Mlim's movements. Ciel asked. Velgaea could be considered Mlim's best friend, so he would never betray Mlim and get her into trouble. Don't worry about that. I already have a solution to that, Rimuru smugly said, showing a rare moment of intelligence that even exceeded Ciel's. And what may that solution be, Ciel asked, raising one eyebrow. Hey, since Velgaea obviously cannot go to towns or villages in his dragon form, since no matter how small he is still a dragon. So how about we give him a transformation skill that has a sub-skill that allows us to monitor Mlim as long as he has his transformation on? Rimuru said with an evil smile. That is surprisingly a good idea, Ciel said with a bit of surprise. She couldn't remember the last time her master had given a good idea. Hey, I feel offended when you say it like this. Rimuru complained. She isn't stupid, okay? It's just that there are no good opportunities for her to showcase her intelligence. Okay, Mlim, remember what I said. Don't take candy from strangers. Don't destroy others' properties just because you are annoyed. Rimuru was going to continue her list when Mlim cut her off. Yes, don't hit just anyone because they made fun of you. Don't kill anyone if you are fighting, and try very hard not to fight inside the city. I know, Aunt Rimuru, you told me the same thing at least 1,000 times. Mlim complained. There's a good reason for me to remind you repeatedly, so don't try to act smart, you little brat, Rimuru said as she pinched Mlim's nose. And you, Velgaea, try your best to make sure Mlim wouldn't get into any trouble, Rimuru said as she addressed Mlim's companion. Don't worry, big sis Rimuru, I will do my best, a small with short, tousled pink hair and blue eyes spoke. He is about 10 to 12 years old and wore a light pink jacket with a hood, which has subtle gold detailing on the sleeves. Underneath, they have a darker blue garment that complements his eyes. This little boy is Velgaea, who is in his new human form. After Rimuru successfully scammed him, he was able to turn into a human form. Although the poor fellow didn't know he was getting scammed, he was happy to finally get a human form. Being all cute and small is not always a good thing, especially if you have a playmate like Mlim. Velgaea couldn't count the number of times he was caught up into the messes Mlim did. Due to his inability to speak, Mlim almost all the time put the blame on him, and he had no way to defend himself. So when he was asked whether he wanted to get a human form, he jumped at it without any hesitation. Who knew what sort of messes Mlim would get him into if he didn't have the ability to speak? Seeing Velgaea, this serious Rimuru almost felt a little sorry about scamming him, but remembering the times these two had caused her too much trouble, the little guilt, she had disappeared in a flash. Okay, you two, before you two go on your journey, both me and Ciel have something to give you too, Rimuru said as she looked at Mlim. And with a wave of her hand, a Mlim's present appeared in front of them. Since Mlim was about to go on her journey, she was wearing the kimono Rimuru gave her on her birthday. So she was a bit surprised at her gift. It was armor consisting of a dark purple chest plate with angular, reinforced designs, providing robust protection for the torso. Complementing the chest plate are shoulder guards and arm guards, crafted with the same dark purple material and angular aesthetics, ensuring both mobility and defense. The lower portion features a skirt-like design, paired with thigh-high boots that have gold accents at the toes, adding a touch of elegance to the otherwise battle-ready attire. Additionally, the armor includes red thigh-high stockings, creating a striking contrast with the purple armor. Overall, the armor is designed for both practicality in combat and visual impact, combining elements of strength, agility, and style. Yes, this is the armor Rimuru and Ciel made yesterday. Although the design of the armor is somewhat similar to what Mlim would wear in the future, the materials used here are completely different. This armor is made of the dragon scales of both Veldana and Rimuru combined, so it isn't wrong to say that this armor is the strongest armor in existence. After a few years of bathing in Mlim's magicules, this armor may become even stronger and surpass the quality of Rimuru's own battle armor. Of course, that is all in the future. Wow, Mlim said as her eyes began to shine like stars. She didn't know why she instantly fell in love with this armor as soon as she gazed at it. This was the same feeling she got from the clothes she is now wearing. Is this really for me? Mlim asked with a bit of excitement. Yes, this armor is made especially for you. It will double your defense when you're using your dragonification, or like you want to call it, battle mode, Rimuru said as she ruffled Mlim's hair. So what are you waiting for? Try it on. At Rimuru's words, Mlim entered her dragonification state and put on her armor. The armor fitted her perfectly. Mlim tried moving a little and found out that the armor didn't restrict her movements in the slightest. And to top it all, the armor was so light that Mlim didn't feel like she was wearing another pair of clothes. So how is it? Rimuru asked with a proud smile. Even though Ciel helped in the process, it was Rimuru who did most of the work. so she is very proud of her work and couldn't wait to hear the endless praises. And Mlim didn't disappoint her. It's super comfortable. The armor doesn't restrict my movements at all. Thank you, Aunt Rimuru. I love this armor so much, Mlim said as she hugged Rimuru tightly. Normally a normal human would be crushed because of the strength Mlim used in the hug. Fortunately, Rimuru was anything but normal, so this much strength is barely enough to crush her. After breaking the hug, Mlim was about to take the armor of her, but Rimuru stopped her. With a smile, Rimuru said, "You don't need to take it off manually, Mlim. You just exit your dragonification state and see what happens." Huh, okay. Although Mlim was puzzled, she obediently exited her battle mode and returned to her normal form. Her horn on her forehead began to shrink back to her head. The dragonic scales that were on her body also began to disappear. And surprisingly, the armor also began to disappear, and Mlim was finally seen wearing her previous clothes. Huh, where's the armor? Mlim said she looked at herself before looking around. Seeing her like this, Rimuru couldn't help but let out a chuckle. After calming down, she explained, "This is one of the functions the armor has. When you exit your battle mode, the armor will automatically return inside of your body, like your scales and horn. Oh, and apart from this, the armor also has a system to adjust the body temperature, so no matter the climate, you will never feel cold or hot." "Wow, you are amazing, Aunt Rimu," Mlim said as she praised Rimuru continuously. She was excited because Rimuru made her armor that would allow her to fight without worrying about the weather. In short, she could fight for days straight without catching a cold. "Ha ha ha, as long you like it," Rimuru said with her head held high. One could almost see the arrogance oozing out of her body. After basing in the glory, Rimuru turned to Velgaia and said, "Of course I didn't forget you as well. Here is your farewell gift." Saying so, Rimuru gave Velgaia a necklace. It was a striking necklace featuring a dragon pendant. The pendant is crafted from a metallic material, intricately shaped into a dragon with outstretched wings. The dragon is wrapped around a blue crystal, which forms the lower part of the pendant. The crystal has a rough, natural texture, adding to the mystical and enchanting appearance of the piece. The chain of the necklace is also metallic, with robust links that complement the pendant's design. This necklace is a storage device. It can store anything and has the capacity comparable to our own house. And like Mlim's armor, this necklace would be stored inside of your body when you enter your dragon form. Oh, and before I forget, you must store your clothes in this necklace if you don't want to appear naked each time you transform into your human form, Rimuru said as she smiled. Velgaia's human transformation is different from what the true dragons use. They don't actually transform with a skill you see. What they do could be called shape-shift. As spiritual life forms, they could manipulate their bodies into their desired forms. So the clothes they wear are a part of their bodies, so even in battle they wouldn't be destroyed. In Velgaia's case, he is essentially transforming his physical body into a human form. So when he would return to his dragon form, his clothes would be shredded to pieces. "Thank you, big sis Rimuru," Velgaia said as he looked at the necklace with a fond smile. Like Mlim, he too felt an indescribable connection to this necklace. "Haha, as long as you like it. That is enough for me," Rimuru said with a smile. But if you looked closely, you could see worry in her eyes. Although she didn't say it out loud, the necklace also has another function, and that is to collect the soul of the wearer, so it would not go to the cycle of reincarnation immediately. After Veldonava's incident, Rimuru decided to be extra careful, so she didn't take any chances at all. Even if it was very unlikely for Velgaia to lose a battle, his soul would remain in the necklace, allowing him to be revived if Mlim becomes a demon lord. Of course, all this is just a precaution in case Rimuru truly couldn't stop Mlim from becoming a demon lord. While one may wonder why Rimuru goes to this much lengths when she is in charge of the reincarnation cycle, the answer to that is simple. It's because, like Veldonava, Rimuru too is bound to a set of rules. The only difference between them is that the VOW couldn't directly punish or harm Rimuru in any way, as both of them have the same authority. But that doesn't mean they couldn't do anything against each other. If Rimuru meddled too much, her authority could decrease and be transferred to the VOW and vice versa. This is the final balance Veldanava created when he was designing the VOW. His main objective was always free will, so he didn't want his world to be controlled by one party, even if they were his sister and greatest creation. It was this mentality that would bite him in the future, but despite this, Veldanava never changed. This is what Rimuru respects and hates about Veldanava. She respects his principle of wanting every one of his creation to have their own choices, while she hates his responsibility to come up with a backup to protect his loved ones. Well, at least Mlim is much better than you in this regard, Rimuru thought as she watched Mlim leave with Velgaia. While Mlim may still have that childish personality, she is quite responsible when it is needed. She would protect what's important to her even if it meant destroying everything. That Rimuru is quite sure of. It has been about a week since Mlim went on her journey. Due to her absence, the always noisy restaurant had been quiet these days. The regulars felt a bit lonely without seeing the bundle of excitement like they were used to for the last few years. The person who is most affected is Veldora. Since he has a mindset that of a child, he, Velgaia, and Mlim were the ones who did mischief together. So with the absence of his comrades, Veldora was a little down. Thankfully, there is Evarage to comfort him. Speaking of them, those two have been going on dates every so often. Rimuru speculated that it wouldn't be long before they propose to each other. Rimuru, for the most part, did not feel any loneliness. She was used to this feeling in her past life, so it did not make any impact on her daily life. Furthermore, she and Ciel were constantly monitoring Mlim's day-to-day activities, and Rimuru was a bit shocked by Mlim's behavior these days. She saw her actually avoiding trouble. For example, there was an instance where she went to a bar accidentally, and the barkeep scolded her for coming while she was still too young. Normally, Mlim would throw a tantrum and at the very least punch the barkeep before going away. But this time she surprisingly didn't do anything like this. She awkwardly smiled and explained that she was looking for a place to eat. Maybe I'm still judging Mlim based on her counterpart, Rimuru thought as she frowned. Since she was too used to Mlim being in trouble, she expected the same. Well, I should make something nice for her when she comes back as an apology, Rimuru muttered as she thought up many new recipes she hadn't done for the last few centuries. What was that, master? Ciel asked as she stopped what she was doing when she heard Rimuru murmuring something. Hearing Ciel's call, Rimuru broke out of her deep thoughts and explained, "Nothing, just thinking about what to bake for Mlim when she comes back." Hearing this, Ciel was silent. Isn't the answer very simple? Just make everything and present it to Mlim. No need to choose, as Mlim would love more sweets than one. Although she thought about it like this, Ciel didn't say those thoughts out loud. For one, she doubted Rimuru would listen to her explanation, and the other being it wasn't her business. And with that, Ciel went back to doing her job, and that is to monitor the growth of the egg that is being kept down under the arena. Due to the constant fights in the arena, the egg has been reviewing an abundance of magicules. Ciel predicted that it wouldn't be long before the egg hatched, and she is very interested in knowing what type of phoenix it would be. It's just that even now Ciel has been unable to analyze and tell what species the hatchling would become. As Rimuru said earlier, a monster born from magicules will inherit the characteristics of the magicules or even the person who released the magicules. It is similar to how Charybdis inherited the characteristics of dragons from Veldora. It also inherited the characteristics of the sky from his magicules. At first, both Ciel and Rimuru thought this egg would hatch a fire phoenix due to being born from the combination of Velgrind and Rudra. But after a few experiments done by Ciel, she found out that this egg seems to absorb every kind of magicules that is near it. And surprisingly, it seems to absorb magicules tainted with the darkness attribute more than the others. That's ironic, since both Rudra and Velgrind belong to the light group. How fascinating, Ciel thought, as tried her best to solve the puzzle that is around the egg. Because of Rimuru's order, the demons destroyed, the most powerful and technologically advanced country of high humans was reduced to ashes. The royal family and the other families who are the core of the country were brutally murdered. Even their subordinate families who took part in the Mlim kidnapping plan were also killed. Due to this, the country quickly began to crumble. many of its citizens began to flee to other countries. They didn't dare to claim they were citizens of the high human country after witnessing their countries fall under the demons. In fact, this was considered the third and last high human country that was destroyed under the demons' attack. So a rumor went around that high humans attract the wrath of the demons. After the fall of the high human kingdom, the power balance in the West changed. Several other countries rose to power to fill the gap. The Elf Kingdom was one such kingdom. The current king of elves used many resources and improved the technology of his country. Some claim that due to his efforts, the technology level far surpassed the level the high human country once had. Due to this accomplishment, the Elf King's fame rose, and he was revered as a hero in his kingdom. The common people and ministers all greatly respected him. But no one knew that the famed Elf King was in fact an imposter. His true identity is Jahil, the person who summoned Guy Crimson to this world. Due to his foolishness of believing he could control a primordial demon, he and his empire fell into ruin. Luckily, during his death, he managed to escape with his astral body. So for decades, he roamed in the Cardinal World as a soul to look for a suitable body to resurrect himself again. After years of waiting, he finally found his current body. After he took control over this body, he tried once again to establish his dominance over the Cardinal World. Since the Elven Kingdom was built under the ruins of his former empire, everything was a matter of time. While he also had one other thought in his mind, and that is to take revenge on Guy Crimson. To do that, he needed a better weapon. A weapon that can destroy Guy Crimson. Since he knew demons and angels were no good, he set his eyes on someone else. And that is Veldanava. He wanted to control Veldanava so he could rule the world. But even he knew controlling Veldanava is not an easy task. At first, his first thought was to kidnap his human lover, but that was easier said than done. If he failed, he would be targeted by not Rudra, but possibly the whole true dragon family. So he was put in a difficult spot for the next decades. But luck would have it, he finally saw the light in the dark tunnel. And that is the daughter of Veldanava. As a direct descendant of Veldonava, it would only be a matter of time before she grows to power, rivaling her parents. But with his past experience, he decided to be more cautious with his approach. So instead of him taking action personally, he decided to use another party to do the hard job. And that other party is the last remaining high human kingdom. With his careful planning, he managed to instill the idea that capturing the baby Mlim would strengthen their kingdom in the ruling party of the high human kingdom. It wasn't too hard, as all it required was a bit of hypnosis magic. And with them as guinea pigs, he watched and waited patiently for them to make a move and capture Veldonava's descendant. He saw how they sponsored a rebellion in the Eastern Empire. He watched how they almost succeeded in kidnapping the child. Looking at how well their plan was working, even Jahil believed they would succeed and he would finally be able to get his hands on a powerful weapon. But at the last moment, the plan crumbled. Not only did the mission fail, the last high human kingdom was reduced to ashes in a few hours. And this time, all the primordials came to the material world. They killed and tortured everyone who participated in the mission. At that time, Jahil felt cold sweat running down his head. Although he had absolute confidence that his actions would not be found as he erased all traces, he was still anxious for a long time. The primordial demons left a huge shadow on my mind. Fortunately, no one found out about his involvement. He mentally patted his back for being so cautious earlier, or he was sure he would die a very painful death. After this incident, no one ever heard of the baby. Apart from a rumor of Star King Veldonava dying under the hands of his own sister, there was no other information. This made Jahil extremely irritated as he now had no way to take revenge on Guy Crimson. And since Veldonava is dead, his options are the other 3 true dragons. Unfortunately, both Velzard and Velgrind are not someone he could meet, as both of them belong to Guy's and Rudra's factions respectively. And he very much doubted he could defeat Guy with just one of them. And since controlling 2 of them is next to impossible, Jahil decided to put the idea away for now. Next on his list was controlling Rimuru, the Void Empress, but from what he heard, she seems to be the ruler of the underworld and rarely comes to the material world. So she was out of Jahil's list. And the last one is Veldora, who has been missing all these years. If not for the fact he knew Veldora excites Jahil, would have thought his existence was made of rumor. In the end, Jahil realized that he had no way to control either one of the strongest beings for now. So he put his revenge plan aside and decided to focus on improving his own strength. Since he was once close to death, Jahil thought of creating a spell that would make him immortal and near unkillable. This desire led to him doing many experiments in secret. He kidnapped many citizens and tried various methods to create the perfect spell that would help him. In the process, thousands of innocents died in his experiments. He was doing his experiments many years before he was discovered by Kigali, the princess of the Elven Kingdom. It was at that time he knew his cover was blown. So he no longer kept the facade of a kind elf ruler and showed his true self. He locked Kigali in his experiment labs and did the experiments on her like many others. Due to Kigali inheriting many magical talents from the Elf King, whose body he occupied, she managed to last more than the others. It was thanks to her endurance that Jahil finally managed to complete his spell. The mystic art, Birthday. Birthday allows the user to create powerful deathmen using thousands of corpses. They can be used as powerful puppets, as an incarnation medium, or have the dormant ego that remains from the bodies used in their creation awakened. Since he was able to create his greatest masterpiece, due to Kigali, he decided to use her as the first person he would be using this spell on. And so, using the 1,000 corpses of his failed experiments as a material, he resurrected Kigali as a death man. But he didn't stop there. He cast a curse on her, so she would forever have a flesh that would rot no matter what, and would also change her gender to a man. Oh, how much he enjoyed the begging and look of despair she had in her face. No, it should be he had on his face. To add to his injury, he named him Kazalim, and he would be his new son from now. After that, for the next few days, Jahil was scheming to make the perfect plan to rule over this world. With his birthday spell, he could create an immortal army that would be under his command. But his actions couldn't be too obvious, as Guy or Rudra may notice it. He has no power to contend against them for now. And for the next few days, he was researching for a way to provoke a war that would supply him the necessary corpses needed for his Deathman army. And it was during this time he got some interesting information. In the west of his kingdom, there was a sighting of a human girl who was riding on a dragon. And after looking at the features of the girl, Jahil was surprised to see that she looked very similar to Lucia. And since he knew Lucia was an otherworlder and had no relatives, a bold guess came to his mind. Could she be Veldanava's daughter? And so he ordered his men to trail them and investigate her thoroughly. He needed to be sure, since if she really is Veldanava's daughter, then he might have struck gold. And even if the off chance she wasn't the dragon alone is worth the effort. Apart from the true dragons, there are not many dragons in the Cardinal World, so capturing a dragon is very hard. And he wondered what would happen if he managed to make a Deathman dragon. If he managed to do that, his army would be more powerful. So no matter what, Jahil felt that he wouldn't be at a loss if he could capture either the girl or the dragon. What Jahil at this time didn't know was that because of his actions, not only would his kingdom be destroyed to ashes, he himself would suffer greatly due to the consequences. The consequences of angering a dragon. After months of hard work, Jahil finally managed to lay an ambush on the girl and the dragon. It was during the night he and his personal squad he personally created arrived at a lake near the Elf Kingdom. Their targets, which were the girl and the dragon that could shape-shift, had set up camp near the place after they were kicked out of the city they were in earlier. Of course, it was all set up by Jahil, who ordered his men to create a scene where they would have no choice but to flee from the city. After collecting information about these two, for this whole time Jahil knew which buttons to press. For this day, Jahil did many preparations. His cautious nature would not allow him to act recklessly. First, he waited for them to fall asleep before ordering his men to make a move. Then he created a barrier that restricted skills and magicules around them. Then as soon as the barrier was up, he ordered his men to attack at full power. Although this may harm the targets, he didn't lack the technology to grow a limb or two. And he also used some of his skills to cast curses on them, just to be safe. They were simple curses like paralysis or sleep. He didn't believe someone could react to that level of preparation. But unfortunately, he miscalculated. He didn't take into account that there would be a person who has an abnormal condition nullification skill enchanted to their clothes. As soon as the attacks finished, Mlim came rushing at them with her weapon at the ready. She was like a bullet as she rushed toward her attackers with astonishing speed. And before they could even realize it, she decapitated them in a single slash. Seeing this, Jahil frowned, feeling a bit concerned. No, he wasn't concerned about his men's lives, as they were just useful pawns that he could simply discard any time. No, the reason he was a bit concerned is that he may have underestimated the girl's fighting capabilities. She didn't use any skills, but her swordsmanship is top quality, and she was able to defeat some of his men in a second. Furthermore, the dragon hasn't made a move yet. This is getting troublesome, he murmured as he ordered his remaining men to attack her at once. Seems like I have to deal with one before the other could overwhelm my men. Fighting two of them at the same time would be troublesome, he thought as he erased his presence. So while his men were keeping the brat busy, he sneaked behind the dragon to deliver a finishing blow. But he once again miscalculated. The dragon had the anti-skill, so his normal attacks failed to hurt him. Cursing again, Jahil engaged in battle with the dragon, who turned out to be a martial arts genius. Thankfully, the dragon is too young and has not enough experience, so Jahil was able to incapacitate him after a while. The young best relied too heavily on his anti-skill. So after losing its protection, the dragon was instantly overwhelmed. After that, Jahil observed the situation with his men. He found out that the brat was almost done with his men. And unlike the dragon, this brat had experience with the sword. After comparing the pros and cons, Jahil decided to escape for now. He simply doesn't have the confidence to defeat the pink-haired brat without sustaining any serious injuries. So he did the thing anyone at his place would do. He grabbed the dragon brat and teleported away. And of course, launched a sneak attack on her before teleporting away. If his attack was successful, his men would bring that brat to him. And if that wasn't successful, well, tough luck, he would just have to try again another time. Maybe he could send his new test subject after her after he is done with him. That would certainly be interesting, Jahil thought with a cold smirk. As for her coming after him, that would be even better. Not only could he use the numerous soldiers to wear her down, he would even be able to test out his new weapons he specially made for the incoming wars that he would lead. Get out of my way, Mlim screamed as she swung her sword. Her sword managed to decapitate another soldier, but despite that, others rushed towards her without caring for their comrade's life or death. TSK, I need to deal with these guys quickly. Gia needs my help, Mlim thought as she used every one of her special techniques to quickly deal with these mobs. Although the barrier restricts her skills and magicules, it doesn't hinder her too much. For magicules, her intrinsic skill helped her bypass the limitation. As for skills, well, she has no unique or ultimate skills yet, so that too is useless. The only reason she is struggling is because she lacks the experience to deal with this many enemies at once. These guys don't even let a little breather for her to cast a spell. Just as Mlim was complaining, she suddenly felt danger behind her. So without any hesitation, she kicked the ground so hard that cracks appeared and jumped. Rimuru always told her to believe in her instincts, as it would never be wrong. And that happened to be the correct decision, as not long before Mlim jumped into the air, a black magic attack hit the place she was before. The attack was so destructive that it made a crater in the ground. Even the soldiers were affected by the attack. Almost half of them died or got seriously injured. Damn, that bastard got away with Gia. Mlim cursed as she saw Volgaea and the bastard missing. And just when Mlim was about to try and follow them, the remaining soldiers once again attacked her. Damn all, leave me alone, you bastards. Mlim roared as she tried her best to push them back. But no matter what, these stubborn soldiers wouldn't let her get away. Error, Mlim growled as she felt her vision getting red. She was angry. She wants to rescue her friend, but these bastards seem to be hell-bent on stopping her. Due to her unstable emotions, her magicules began to run rampant. Her aura was so strong that the barrier began to crack due to not being able to handle the pressure. Mlim's attacks began to grow stronger and wilder. She was like a berserker who had finally been let loose from her cage. Her speed and reflexes began to grow at an astonishing speed. After a few minutes, Mlim finally stopped swinging her sword and pushed onto the ground. She was utterly exhausted. She panted as she lay on top of a mountain of corpses. These corpses belonged to the elf soldiers who tried their best to defeat her. Just as Mlim was trying to regain her strength, she heard a voice that was cold and indifferent. Notice individual has gained the unique skill Wrath. At the same time, Mlim gained her first unique skill Rimuru and Ciel, who were sleeping on their suddenly jolted awake. They just felt the protections they left on Velgaia and Mlim react. Ciel locate Mlim and Velgaia immediately, Rimuru said as she jumped out of the bed. And just as her feet touched the ground, her pajamas turned to black smoke and in the next second changed to her combat outfit. Her outfit consists of a sleeveless black tunic that reaches down to her thighs, featuring a high collar and a somewhat loose fit. She wears black arm guards that cover her forearms and extend to her elbows, complemented by golden shoulder guards that add a touch of armor and flair to her look. A white belt cinches the tunic at her waist, providing a striking contrast to the dark fabric. She pairs this with fitted black trousers tucked into knee-high black boots, creating a practical yet stylish ensemble. The overall design blends traditional and modern elements, with the golden shoulder guards and the white belt adding visual interest and breaking up the monotony of the black fabric. Ciel nodded and immediately turned to black smoke and entered Rimuru's body. And in a span of less than a second, she scanned the whole Cardinal World and located both Mlim and Velgaia. Master, it seems Velgaia has been captured as he is currently in the Kingdom of Elves while Mlim is at a place near the border of the kingdom. Ciel said as she analyzed everything. Is his life in any danger? Rimuru asked with furrowed brows. You know, Velgaia isn't actually weak. And for someone to detain him, this person must be very powerful. Negative, his life signs are stable. It's just that he is currently unconscious, so I can't connect to him, Ciel said with a frown. This is a situation they didn't take into account. She and Rimuru would monitor Mlim and Velgaia every day to make sure they didn't do something too crazy. But they would stop their observation every time they fell asleep. Since she and Rimuru knew they couldn't really protect those two every day, so gradually they stopped monitoring them every day. But it seems they were too hasty in their judgment. They thought with the skills Rimuru and Veldora had taught them, they could fight and at the very least escape safely. Well, they were wrong in their judgment. In the original story, Velgaia didn't even manage to protect Mlim as she and him were captured by Jahil without any difficulty. His plan only failed because Mlim at the last minute awakened her ultimate skill and went berserk. Here, though, not only did Jahil barely manage to capture Velgaia, he even lost his elite troops. And furthermore, he himself knew that he couldn't capture Mlim. Master, I recommend going to see Mlim first. Her emotional state is very unstable. If not handled correctly, she may lose her sanity like she did in the past. Ciel advised as she looked at Rimuru. Rimuru clenched her fists hard before slowly calming down. She then nodded to Ciel's suggestion and opened a space rift to where she felt Mlim was. She knew she needed to have a calm mind to assess the situation calmly. Coming out of the other side of the portal, she saw Mlim laying on top of a small mountain of corpses. Her eyes were barely conscious. Rimuru wasted no time as she rushed towards her and applied a healing spell potion on her. The potion managed to restore some of her exhausted mental energy. She looked at Rimuru and said in a broken voice, Ani Rimuru, they took Velgaia away. Please help him. Don't worry, Mlim. We will go get him back. For now, let's just wait for the healing potion to work. I'm sure you want to take revenge on them by yourself, Rimuru said as she tried to calm Mlim down. The healing potion needs to take a few seconds to completely take effect. This is especially for magic-borns who have a great resistance to magical attacks. And Mlim's magical resistances are quite high. After a while, Mlim got up. Although she is still agitated over not being able to help Velgaia for the most part, she recovered her mental energy. Forcing her mind to calm down, Mlim looked at Rimuru with hopeful eyes. If her aunt makes a move, they could rescue Velgia in a matter of minutes. Once they find Velgia and rescue him, Mlim vows to break the bones of that bastard 100 times as revenge for attacking them. Okay, Mlim, now, since you have calmed down a little, explain to me the situation clearly. What happened and why was Velgia kidnapped? Rimuru asked as she looked at Mlim seriously. You don't kidnap people without a cause, especially if they decided to mobilize such a force. Rimuru thought as she looked at fallen soldiers. At one glance, she could tell they are highly trained professionals. No run-in-a-mile bandit could have such a force. And for what Ciel has found so far, the perpetrator is from the Elf Kingdom. Why would the Elf Kingdom want to attack Mlim and Velgia? Rimuru thought with a frown. And what is the feeling of I'm forgetting something important? Although Rimuru has a perfect memory, after living for millions of years, she would forget some useless knowledge. So unless she tries very hard, she wouldn't remember it. And this isn't actually the best time to reminisce about her past. Earlier today, me and Velgia were kicked out of the city, so we had no choice but to camp outside. And when it was close to midnight, we were attacked by these guys. At first, both of us didn't think too much about them, as we figured they were some bandits who wanted to make some quick money. So, just as I was about to cast a spell to knock them all away, a barrier suddenly appeared and blocked me from using any magic. So I had no choice but to use physical attacks. And just when Velgia was about to join the fight, a man who was much stronger than the others suddenly appeared and attacked Velgia. Fortunately, Velgia had his anti-skill that allowed him to nullify the attack. Since that man took the initiative to attack, Velgia too counterattacked. At first, I thought with Velgia's anti-skill he could beat that man who seems to be a mage with ease. But the fight didn't last a few minutes as Velgia was defeated by that man. And when I wanted to help Velgia, it was too late. That man launched an attack at me and used it as a cover to teleport away with Velgia. And I couldn't go after them as these guys kept coming at me even after I killed more than half of them. Mlim said as she narrated the whole situation. Rimuru frowned as she heard Mlim's explanation. Unlike Mlim, who had no idea, Rimuru could see the bigger picture. The reason why Mlim and Velgia were kicked out was because the mastermind wanted them out of the city to launch his attack. And for this mission, he took a squad of Death Knights who would fight even if their comrades were killed. That is to say, he wanted to either kill or capture the other party. And judging from the way things went, their objective was Velgia, as he was quickly dealt with. Ciel, find out what happened here, Rimuru said as she commanded Ciel to do what she is best at. Analyzing. Processing information. Information processed. Master, I have found 3 possible outcomes, Ciel said after she scanned the whole battlefield. Tell me what we have, Ciel, Rimuru said as she waited for her explanation. Master, according to my calculations, the one responsible for this attack is Jahil. According to what I have found, the people here are an elite assassin squad that is directly under his control. And in the Elf Kingdom, there is only Jahil who has enough skill to bypass Velgia's anti-skill. If I have to guess, the probability of him doing this attack is to capture both Mlim and Velgia. But he had miscalculated as Mlim and Velgia are too strong for him to deal with alone. So he had retreated after capturing Velgia. Ciel said as she presented her guess. Jahil, you mean the crazy clown guy that was such a pain in the ass that was killed by Guy a long time ago? I thought Guy destroyed his soul when he went on that massacre. Rimuru asked in doubt. Yes, Master, he is the same person. And Master, don't you remember him appearing in the future again after possessing the body of Footman? Ciel asked in exasperation. I remember that guy. I kept forgetting about him since he was killed by Diablo after he spoke some nonsense about being the supreme ruler or something. Rimuru said as she remembered the high human clown who doesn't know how to face reality. Yes, it's that guy. From the data I got, he seemed to have possessed the body of the current Elf King. Ciel said with a sigh. Well, then let's just go there and kill him and bring Velgia back, then, Rimuru said as she cracked her neck. Mlim, get ready, we're going to bring Velgia back, Rimuru said as she looked at Mlim. Mlim nodded as her eyes lit up with determination. She was going to make them pay and rescue her best friend at any cost. Unsheathing her blade, Rimuru slashed the space in front of her. The space was split open without any resistance. While walking into the space rift, Rimuru muttered, "Honestly, can't these villains stay away from my family? Every time they make me angry, only innocents would be affected by my wrath." Appearing on the other side, Rimuru was met with a futuristic city that is in flames. And furthermore, there is a dark miasma covering the whole kingdom. If one wouldn't know better, they would think the end of the world is coming. What the hell happened here? Rimuru asked in shock. A few minutes earlier, after Jahil successfully managed to come back to his kingdom with the captured Velgaia, he went straight to his lab. He couldn't wait to do all the experiments on Velgaia so he could have his own death dragon. But on his way, he saw his son coming towards him. Perfect timing. Come with me to lab number 22. We have some new material for our new experiment," Jahil said as he looked at Kazalem with a wide smile. Normally, he wouldn't allow anyone into his laboratory, since they would just be a hindrance. But since he was in such a good mood, he allowed Kazalem to join him. But the next moment, he had to dodge to the side as Kazalem fired a curse spell at him. "What are you doing, Kazalem?" Jahil asked enraged. "Doing something I should have done years ago," Kazalem said as she swung her staff again and fired numerous curse magic spares at Jahil. "How dare you?" Jahil roared as he countered the spell with his own magic. Then he tried to activate the curse that he placed on Kazalem's soul. It was then he realized it. His curse mark has been removed. "You, how the hell did you remove my curse mark?" Jahil asked in shock. "It wasn't that hard, I just had to expel all the curse energy I had in my body," Kazalem said like it was no big deal. "You lunatic," Jahil said as he looked at Kazali with surprise. "Expelling all the curse energy in one's body would bring a death man like Kazalem to the brink of death. Well, if I could finally stop your madness, then being a lunatic is a small price," Kazalem said as he started to attack. Jahil also stopped talking as he too fought with Kazalem. Although he is far more experienced in curse magic, his earlier battle with Velgaia and Mlim exhausted most of his magicules. So it didn't take long before Kazalem managed to deliver a decisive blow. "Damn you, Kazalem, I will make you pay," Jahil said as he activated a smoke bomb and teleported away from this place. "I won't let you escape," Kazalem roared as he fired a curse bullet at Jahil to stop him from escaping. "Ah!" Jahil screamed as his arm and almost half of his body were separated from his body. "Kazalem, I will get my revenge." That was all Jahil could say before he was teleported away. "Tisk, this would be troublesome now that he had escaped," Kazalem said as he clicked his tongue in annoyance. "I better go see Lady Sylvia and report this. At least that way I can rest assured that my father wouldn't bring disaster to this kingdom anymore," Kazalem said as he walked in a specific direction. On her way, she couldn't help but wonder, strange, am I forgetting something? After Kazalem left, the ground began to crack. From the crack, Velgia came out. He looked at his surroundings, and after sensing no one, he breathed a sigh of relief. Sigh that was close. Thank goodness those guys fought each other. Earlier, when Jahil and Kazalem were fighting, Velgaia woke up due to the commotion. And as soon as he saw Jahil being occupied, he broke free from his restraints. Although he lost to Jahil, earlier Velgia wasn't what you could call weak. He just lacked the experience of dealing with cunning opponents. And with the use of his anti-skill, he was able to break free from the restraints Jahil placed on him. After that, Velgaia used his powers to dive under the ground to hide himself. He didn't want to gamble whether he could defeat any of them after their fight ended. And it was only after he felt no one was there did he came out of the ground. "First, I need to contact Mlim," Velgaia thought as he rummaged through his storage space. And from it, he took out a ring. This ring is something Rimuru made for all of the true dragon family. Although it was made based on the Demon Lord's ring the guy would give in the future, Ciel modified it so it could contact anyone privately and not work like a group chat. But before he could contact Mlim, the whole palace shook. He almost stumbled down due to this. "What the hell is happening in this place?" he said as stood up. Shit, damn that bastard, how dare he do this to me?" Jahil cursed loudly as he used the wall as a support to walk. He was too careless. Due to not having any more magicules to cast another teleportation magic, Jahil had no choice but to tank the hit. And that was an unwise decision, as the spell Kazalem cast was a rot-type curse spell. The attack would rot anything when it came in contact. So when the spell hit him, Jahil felt so much agony that he almost lost consciousness. It was only with sheer will did he manage to activate the teleportation spell. After being teleported to his secret base, he quickly used his last remaining energy to heal himself or stop the corruption from spreading. It was after that he finally took a chance to take a breath. After resting for 5 minutes, he immediately started cursing Kazalem again. His hatred for his son reaches a level comparable to the hate he has for Guy. And it even surpassed the limit when he finally realized that he forgot to bring that dragon with him. And that was the final straw for him to go crazy with anger. Arriving at a grand door that is sealed, Jahil used some of the magicules he recovered to open the door. When the door opened, a dark miasma began to pour out of the door. Ignoring this, he crawled inside. Inside the room, one could see various futuristic equipment that are used for monitoring. And in the center of the room, there is a huge glass container filled with yellow liquid. And inside that liquid, there is a huge wolf suspended in the air. This wolf is something Jahil caught during his days as a high human. At first, he only thought of using it as material for his future experiments, since the wolf seemed to belong to an ancient bloodline. But he ultimately decided to preserve it since he might need it in the future. And during the demon summoning ceremony, his original intention was to let Guy Crimson inhabit this body. But things didn't go according to plan, and he was killed. But fortunately, this lab survived Guy's rampage since it is built deep underground. After he occupied the Elf King's body, he came and found this place and numerous labs intact. So he made the Elf Kingdom here, since it would be convenient for him. After he completed his birthday spell, he had a thought of making an ancient beast his personal mutt. This is also why he captured Velgaea. If a dragon of his caliber became a death dragon, then he may have an opportunity to kill Guy Crimson. But before he found Velgaea, he had to experiment with something else. And that's when this ancient wolf came in. Although he successfully managed to revive him, he was still in his experimental stage and is not ready to be let loose. But after what happened today, Jahil no longer bothered to think about those details. Due to his anger, he wanted to make Kazalem pay for the humiliation he did. Pressing a few buttons, Jahil started the process of waking up the wolf monster. Soon the yellow liquid began to be drained from the container, and in a few seconds, there was only the wolf inside. Looking at the wolf, Jahil had an excited expression. "By my command, arise from your slumber, Fenrer," he shouted as he activated the control mechanism that bound the wolf with him. The wolf opened its eyes. The world seemed to freeze as the blood-red eyes looked at its surroundings. And with a loud howl, the majestic Fenrer announced its presence to the whole world. Ha ha, it was a success. Jahil laughed in joy as he looked at his masterpiece. Fenrer is a majestic and intimidating wolf-like creature with a dark, almost black coat that seems to absorb light. The fur is long, flowing, and has an ethereal quality, with strands that curl and twist as if they are alive. His eyes are glowing red, piercing through the darkness with an intense, almost otherworldly gaze. The markings on his face and chest are distinct and golden, adding to his regal and fearsome appearance. Now, let's go, Fenrer. Let us show those fools who dare to cross my path the consequences," Jahil said as he laughed out madly. Fenrer didn't say anything as it just looked at Jahil without any emotion. Jahil didn't mind that look. Fenrer is different from Kazalem due to the fact that its original ego was lost. So currently it's a creature with limited intelligence and relies heavily on its instincts. So apart from him, no one could control Fenrer. "Let's go," Jahil said as he got on top of Fenrer with difficulty. Fenrer howled again as it blasted the roof with its sound alone. Then it jumped and appeared in the sky. It let out another howl as it descended into the ground. "Kill these insects. They would be very suitable for my next experiment," Jahil said as he arrogantly looked at the people below who were screaming in terror. Fenrir obeyed his orders, and soon dark energy began to gather in its mouth, and soon an energy ball was formed. Fenrir released the energy ball towards the screaming crowd. As soon as the energy ball touched the ground, it exploded, sending debris everywhere. Hundreds of elves died, and just one explosion. Haha, that's right. Feel the terror. This is what you deserve for interfering with my plans. Jahil's mad laughter echoed as he looked at the destruction with satisfaction. Let's go to the palace, Jahil ordered as he wanted to kill Kazalim as soon as possible. The humiliation he felt should be washed away by his dead body. But Fenrer didn't move. It looked at the destruction with a dazed expression. Jahil was annoyed at this, so once again shouted, "What are you doing, Mutt? Didn't you hear me? Let's go to the palace." But still, Fenrer didn't move. This time Jahil was super annoyed. So he used the control magic to forcibly command Fenrer. Jura! Fenrer growled as it felt something trying to control it. So it retaliated and broke the control very easily. Blurg! Jahil vomited blood as he endured the backlash. How could you? He said in horror. Fenrir looked at the annoying elf on his back and felt a wave of anger inside of him. Since it is barely intelligent, it followed its instincts and shook off the annoying elf from its back. Jahil screamed as he fell down on the ground. He tried to crawl his way out, but he was pinned to the ground by Fenrir's claw. Fenrir looked at him with a menacing gaze. "You can't hurt me. I created you." Jahil tried to reason with it, but Fenrir didn't want to listen to him. Fenrir gulped down the annoying elf, since it felt like eating him would increase its strength. Poor Jahil didn't have to scream as he was killed under the sharp fangs of Fenrir. After gulping down the annoying elf, Fenrir felt much better. It then looked at surrounding other annoying elves and thought it would be fun to see their looks of despair. So it gathered another energy ball and threw it toward the army that is charging towards it. "Damn, what the hell is that?" Velgaia asked with a bit of fear in his voice. He could feel that the wolf was much stronger than him. Maybe Mlim could stall him for an hour at best with her battle mode. But even then, Velgaia didn't think she would be able to defeat it. From its aura that is one full display, Velgaia could tell its speciality is darkness and devouring. Although the capacity is yet to be defined, no magical attack would hurt it. That is, unless you could overpower the devouring properties. And Velgaia could only picture a handful of people doing that. And even he or Mlim is not included in that group. Just as Velgaia was panicking, he saw the space in the sky was cut open. And from a space came two people. One was Mlim, who was in her battle armor, and the other was Rimuru, who had her sword drawn. And when Velgaia saw Rimuru, he instantly felt a wave of relief wash over him. With Rimuru there, this big bad wolf wouldn't be able to cause too much damage to the world. Although the people here should really decide to move out, since the wolf is constantly releasing a dark miasma. So Velgaia cared to explain what the hell happened here. Rimuru's voice broke him from his thoughts. Looking around, he saw he is being suspended in the air and is in front of Rimuru. Since he didn't feel Rimuru grabbing him or anything, the only conclusion he could think of is space warping. Rimuru had swapped two different spaces with each other, like how a certain death surgeon uses his devil fruit. Well, a crazy elf bastard captured me and tried to use me as an experimental subject. But while he was on the way to the lab, he was ambushed by his son or something. Two of them had a fight, and that elf bastard lost the fight. He got seriously injured before he could teleport away. And after a few minutes, he came back with that big wolf. At first, he had enough control over it, but in just a few minutes, he lost control and became dog food. Now, the kingdom is under the threat of being destroyed because of that wolf. Velgaia said, quickly explaining the situation. Rimuru looked at the big wolf, who was throwing energy balls left and right with a solemn expression. Although she could definitely solve the big wolf, the problem lies in the dark miasma that it is realizing. This miasma is filled with negative energy that even if she devours everything, the affected people could not be cured. Even now, she could see some of the elves who were affected turning into dark elves. And what's more, Ciel would need some time to completely analyze if the miasma has any side effects on the body. Velgaia, Mlim, both of you fight that wolf. Keep it occupied so it wouldn't go on a rampage. I will teleport it away from the city with the both of you. While you are doing this, I will go and save the people down there. Remember, don't let the miasma affect you, as I still have no idea what the side effects it has. Do you understand? Rimuru ordered as she looked at the two of them. This would be a perfect opportunity for both of them to get more experience. And besides, to ensure their safety, Rimuru would also teleport the people fighting the wolf with them. Yes, ma'am. Both Velgaia and Mlim nodded their heads in agreement. They didn't have any problems with what Rimuru said, especially Mlim, who was waiting for a chance to blow up some steam. Good, then get ready, Rimuru said as she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. After exhaling, she opened her eyes and got ready. And with a wave of her hand, she directly teleported the big wolf away from the city to the nearby open field. Now, then, Ciel, I leave everything to you, Rimuru said as she switched with Ciel. Her golden eyes turned red. Affirmative, starting analyzing immediately, Ciel said as she went to analyze the dark miasma. Fenrer looked at its surroundings with a vigilant gaze. It was enjoying the looks of despair in those ants when its scenery suddenly changed. The destroyed and burned ground was replaced with a meadow. It wasn't just Fenrer who was surprised. Sarion Grimwald, who was fighting Fenrer, was also surprised. He had been fighting Fenrer with the Elf Royal Army to drive out the beast from the kingdom so they could minimize the casualties. But none of them seemed to be an opponent for Fenrer. His magic immunity made it a hard opening for all of them. And furthermore, the only one who could even scratch Fenrer is Sarion. Due to his unique skills, he could deal some minor damages to Fenrer. But despite the differences in level, Sarion didn't give up. Currently, he is the only person who could even stand up to Fenrer. His wife is currently pregnant, and as the second strongest of the elves, he had to do his utmost best to defeat this beast. Well, now that we are out of the city, all I have to do is buy enough time for others to retreat, Sarion thought as he readied his weapon for another battle. Mlim punch. Just as he was about to attack again, a childish voice echoed as a small girl smashed her small fists into the Fenrir. And much to his surprise, the small fist managed to push Fenrir away. Who the hell is that kid? And how is she so strong? Sarion wondered as he looked at Mlim with astonishment. Growling, Fenrir growled as it looked at Mlim, who was flying with anger in its eyes. And just as it was about to pounce on her, the ground suddenly shook as numerous earth pillars came out and wrapped around it like a cage. Mlim, you can't just charge at him like that. Remember what Aunt Rimuru said, that guy's miasma is not something we should take lightly. Another voice came as footsteps were heard behind Sarion. Turning to look at who it was, Sarion was surprised to see it was another child. Sensing Sarion's gaze, Velgaia looked at him, gave a small bow, and said, "Greetings, my name is Velgaia, and that girl in the sky is my companion Mlim. And although I would like to have a good chat, I don't think that guy there would just sit quietly and let us." Roar. With a roar, Fenrir easily destroyed the stone cage that was trapping him. It looked at the three people who dared to attack him with anger. Then it opened its mouth and began to condense an energy ball. Seeing this, both Velgaia's and Sarion's expressions changed. They both knew how dangerous that energy ball is. Mlim attacked him at full power. Velgaia shouted as he looked at Mlim. Mlim nodded and got down to the ground immediately. Then she pointed both of her palms at Fenrir and began to gather her own energy ball. Time began to slow down as both of their energy balls began to condense. And at the same time, both of them fired at each other. Shit! Velgaia cursed as he used his power to use the earth to cover both him and Sarion from the incoming explosion. Asterisk boom. Asterisk boom. As the two attacks met each other, a huge explosion happened. The wind pressure made the nearby trees blown away. After the dust cloud had dispersed, they could see the outcome of the attacks. Mlim and Fenrir had no injuries on them. Both of their attacks countered each other, making it a draw. Near Mlim, there was an igloo made from earth. The igloo shook as it crumbled, revealing Velgaia and Sarion. Since neither of them doesn't have any fancy armor, Velgaia had no choice but to make an earth shelter for them not to be injured by a flying rock or something. Mlim, keep him company for a while. Me and this guy would try to come up with a plan, Velgaia said as he finally had a rough understanding of Fenrir. Okay, but hurry up, I can't keep my hands on fighting something like that, Mlim said as she rushed towards Fenrir with her sword drawn. And of course, she didn't forget to make a protective barrier around herself with stellar mana. Roar, Fenrir roared as it accepted Mlim's advance. It wanted to shred this girl who had the audacity to block one of his attacks. As two people were duking it out, Velgaia turned to Sarion and said, "So, got any ideas to defeat that wolf?" Sarion thought about it before suggesting, "We could trap it in a barrier and bombard it with attacks." Although both of them have never paired up or even met each other in times of crisis, they need to have each other's back if they want to survive. So that is why Sarion didn't shy away and gave his opinion. That would be hard. None of mine or Mlim's techniques have the ability to seal something like that, Velgaia said as he rubbed his chin. But before he could ponder on that anymore, a small portal opened, and an arm came out and threw something at Velgaia. Velgaia reflexly caught it and found it to be a box. "There is enough equipment in that box for you to set up a barrier." Rimuru's voice was heard before the portal was closed. "Well, that solved the problem," Velgaia said with a wry smile. He then began to unwrap the box to see what was inside it. In the box, there were 4 crystals, an instruction manual, and 3 pairs of bracelets. Velgaia first took the instruction manual and read it. After a few seconds, he handed it to Sarion, as he couldn't really understand half of what was written there. Sarion took a look at it, and his eyes widened as he kept reading it. After finishing reading it fully, he couldn't help muttering, "This level of technology is much higher than what the Elf Kingdom has. No, this may even surpass the Super Sorcery Kingdom's technology." "So, did you understand how to set up this barrier?" Velgaia asked impatiently. They didn't have time to think about unnecessary things. Yes, I was just surprised, that's all. We can set these." As Sarion was about to continue, Velgaia cut him off. "Before you go into detail, please remember I have 0 knowledge in technology, so if you could summarize the content in very simply, that would be helpful." "I see. Well, basically we have to put 3 crystals in 3 directions while holding one in the sky. To activate the barrier, we can use these bracelets that have the function of remotely controlling the barrier. I just need to calibrate the bracelets a little bit, and then we can go back to action," Sarion said, as he began to calibrate the bracelets according to the instructions. Velgaia just stood there and let him do his work. He finally realized why Rimuru teleported Sarion with them. Without this guy, they would have to keep fighting the wolf monster until Rimuru comes. "And done," Sarion said as he finished setting up the bracelets. Although he isn't a researcher, his knowledge in technology is not something you could scoff. Being the husband of the true ancestor of the elves has its own benefits. "Cool, I will switch with Mlim, so you explain the plan to her," Velgaia said as he directly transformed into his dragon form. With a roar, he attacked Fenrer and successfully took the aggro on himself. Seeing Velgaia taking her place, Mlim hid her aura and sneakingly arrived near Sarion. When she came near, she saw that Sarion had his mouth open with a look of disbelief on his face. She tapped him on the shoulder to bring him back to reality. "What made you look so surprised?" she asked with a bit of curiosity. "Dragon. He is a dragon," Sarion asked in disbelief. He knew how overpowered dragons are. In fact, he even attended the Star King's wedding, so he could be considered one of the few people who knew all the dragons in this world. And in his memory, there was no such person similar to Velgaia. "Wait a minute. Speaking of similarities, doesn't this girl resemble Princess Luciana a bit too much?" Sarion thought as he looked at Mlim. Previously, he didn't have the mental capacity to inspect her face clearly due to his fight with Fenrer. And it was only now he finally realized how identical this girl is to Princess Luciana. And from the horns and scales on her body, this girl is also a part dragon. With all these facts right in his face, he would be a fool not to understand who this person is. Not only is this girl part dragon, she even has a dragon as her companion. This girl is undoubtedly the daughter of the Star Dragon King. Isn't it normal?" Mlim asked, bringing Sarion back to reality from his deep thoughts. Sarion really wanted to comment that apart from her family, there are no dragons in the Cardinal World. But he decided to put those thoughts in the back of her mind. There is still a huge wolf waiting for them to seal it. So after shaking his head and dispelling those random thoughts, he explained the plan to Mlim. Although Mlim's knowledge of the technology is even lower than Velgaia, she managed to get the gist of it. And without further ado, she wore the bracelet in her hand and took one magic crystal and stored it. This crystal is the one they will use to make the top of the barrier. After all that is done, she once again went back to the fight to let Velgaia get some rest. Unlike Mlim, who could be content with Fenrir's head on Velgaia, lacked the power and defense to do the same. So he opted for a strategy of annoying the hell out of Fenrer by continuously using earth magic and his physical strength. Even though his attacks had no damage on Fenrer, they successfully managed to annoy him and become his target till a better prey came and joined the fight. But Velgaia sincerely hoped he would never have to battle like that forever. A dragon's most powerful attacks are based on physical attacks. This is more so for Velgaia, who has learned Veldora killing arts. But due to Fenrir's aura, he had to be careful when not to be affected. So apart from throwing some earth weapons, his physical strength was never used rightly. So that was tiring, Velgaia said as he finally managed to slip past Fenrir without it noticing. So did you think of any suitable places for us to place these crystals? He asked as he looked at Sarion. Yes, the barrier range is 10 meters, so we could place a crystal over there, there, and there, Sarion said as pointed at several landmarks. Okay, so do we need to bury these crystals, or just place them? Velgaia asked as he took 2 crystals in his hand after wearing the bracelet. No, you don't need to bury them. Just place them in the right location. After you place the 2, give Mlim a signal to hold the crystal in her hand, so I can start the process, Sarion said as he took the remaining crystal. I'll do that, but you should be careful. That guy has an outrageous danger sense, so he should be able to feel we are doing something. So no matter what you do, don't show your hostility or killing intent. Velgaia said seriously. This is something he nodded after fighting Fenrir for a while. Got it, Sarion said as he nodded seriously. He took Velgaia's words seriously, since unlike the 2 of them, he obviously didn't have any way to fight back once Fenrir focused on him. In the capital of the Elven Kingdom. Mission success, Ciel said as she finished her analysis on the miasma. Although Ciel didn't know how Jahil found it. This miasma is a combination of chaos and negativity, so this is highly toxic for creatures of light attributes. In fact, Ciel wouldn't even be surprised if this miasma was found in the underworld. The negative energy in this miasma is very beneficial for demons. So can you heal the injured people, Ciel? Rimuru asked as she looked at Ciel. Earlier, Ciel came out since Rimuru had to go and save the buried people before they died. Yes, it is possible, but as I said earlier, I cannot change the people who were affected by miasma back into light and wind elves. That would require me to modify their DNA, and that is something Master had forbidden me to do, Ciel said with a helpless smile. Due to her previous crazy experiments, Rimuru had banned Ciel from doing experiments on living beings, especially when it came to changing their biology. That's okay with Kigali here. She wouldn't let the newly formed dark elves be homeless, Rimuru said as she waved her hands. She didn't take the matter of light elves changing into dark elves seriously. This one time, she asked about the attitude towards the dark elves from Elmesia during one of her weekly group meetings. She was really curious to know whether there is a huge discrimination against each other, as they say in the manga and novels. At that time, Elmesia said that they didn't care about the change of skin color. She also said that there was a time when people were even very sympathetic towards dark elves. Being a dark elf signified that they are survivors of the tragedy that happened that day. And most of the survivors were people who had lost all of their loved ones in one day, so no light or wind elves dared to go and show discrimination against them. Okay, Master, then I would begin treatment immediately, Ciel said as she raised her hands into the air. Then a gigantic magic circle covering the whole capital city was made in the sky. And before anyone could freak out, the miasma that was hurting everyone and destroying the ecosystem began to suck towards the magic circle. This magic circle is like a teleportation circle that sucks the miasma and dump it straight into the underworld, where it would be more helpful. After all the miasma was sucked away from town, a part of the magic circle disappeared. Then the magic circle began to rotate as a white light began to descend on the kingdom. When the light touched an injured person, they would feel their injuries getting healed at a rapid pace. The people who were having black lines on their bodies due to the miasma also began to feel better as their bodies began to return to normal. They all cheered as they witnessed the miracle right before their eyes. Many were crying and praying while thanking whoever saved them from the nightmare. "They're done," Ciel said as she put away the magic circle. "Well, thanks for the hard work," Rimuru said as she gave Ciel a thumbs up. Ciel nodded and went back into Rimuru's body. "Now, since that's over, let's go deal with that big dog," Rimuru muttered as she made a space rift to where Mlim and the others were. When she appeared on the other side, she saw Mlim and others had already managed to trap Fenrer. "Impressive you guys managed to trap him in such a short amount of time," Rimuru praised as she looked at them. Seeing her, Sarayan, who was almost exhausted due to stress and anxiety, immediately became energized. With a bow, he said, "It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Lady Rimuru. Be at ease, Sarayan. I'm just here to deal with this guy, so you don't need to be so tense," Rimuru said as she smiled. Truth be told, she felt kind of weird seeing Sarayan like this, since he and Laplace are completely too different. "Aunt Rimuru, what are you going to do about this guy?" Mlim asked as she looked at Rimuru. Rimuru didn't answer as she began to inspect Fenrer. Although she saw him from afar, she didn't get to run a deep analysis on this guy, and the results surprised her. This guy has already managed to inherit a concept, and unsurprisingly his concept is chaos and destruction. These concepts are quite similar to the ones Velgaia got when he was the Chaos Dragon. Wait, does that mean the dragons would be born from this guy? Rimuru suddenly realized. In the original timeline, dragons were born due to the Chaos Dragon's magicules that had the concepts of chaos and destruction. But that itself isn't strange since the progenitor itself is a dragon. But with Fenrir being a wolf, would the beings who are born from his magicules be a dragon or a wolf? It seems like I need to make sure history doesn't change too much, Rimuru thought as she looked at Fenrir meaningfully. You guys should take a few steps back. I'm going to find if this guy can still be saved, Rimuru said as she entered inside the barrier. Roar. Fenrir roared as Rimuru walked inside the barrier. It dashed towards Rimuru with its claws stretched out to shred her into pieces. Seeing the gigantic claws coming near her, Rimuru's face didn't show any panic or fear. She calmly tilted her body to the side to evade the claw, and before Fenrir could retract his claw, Rimuru grabbed it with her hand. Fenrir tried his best to escape Rimuru's grip. It tried to pull with its complete strength, but Rimuru didn't even budge a little. Even when it used the miasma in its body, Rimuru didn't have any reaction. Although the miasma is dangerous, it only applies to normal people. For beings like Rimuru, they could easily destroy the miasma as it came near their bodies. And besides, in terms of pure physical strength, no one could defeat a true dragon. Sit, Rimuru commanded as she used a commanding word spell on Fenrir. This is the same magic she used on that demon at the Demon King Academy. Although the world rules are different, it isn't something a little use of ultimate skill, Faust probability manipulation couldn't fix. Fenrir only heard the word, and its whole body suddenly lost control and sat down on the ground. No matter what he did, his body seemed to be turned to stone as he couldn't even move a muscle. All it could do was growl at Rimuru with hatred. It knew the reason why it was unable to move is because of this woman. Calm down, Rimuru said as she released a bit of her aura to scare it. She needs it to be more obedient to decide whether to kill it or seal it away. Of course, the option of keeping it with them is also an option. But Rimuru is a bit against this idea, as technically Velgaia is their pet. So unless necessary, she didn't want to get another pet, especially one that is this destructive. When Fenrir sensed Rimuru's aura, it suddenly became very docile. As a creature who follows his instinct, he knows very well the person in front of it is a monster in human skin, and this monster can kill it in a matter of seconds. Since it still likes to live, it became very submissive. In the wild, the weak has no choice but to listen to the strong, and it did just that. Good now. Let's see if you're worth protecting, Rimuru said as she touched its head. Ciel run a deep analysis on this guy, Rimuru thought as she instructed Ciel. Yes, master, Ciel replied as to when to do her work. She first began to analyze the body the wolf is using and found out it is the corpse of an ancient wolf who had died many years ago. She then went to analyze its soul and found it had only retained a bit of the original wolf's ego without any awareness. Since it has the concepts of chaos and destruction etched into its soul, it became like this. Since its ego is not strong enough, the concepts took over the wolf's body and influenced its mind. After running a few more tests, Ciel gave Rimuru the final analysis. This guy's situation is a bit similar to Evarch's. His ego is too weak for him to do anything without listening to his instincts. I see, so should we do the same treatment we did to Evarch? Rimuru asked as she looked at the wolf that didn't even dare to move a muscle since she had her hand on his head. Yes, if we help his ego develop, it may be sufficient to let him have his own thoughts and not be swayed by its instincts. Ciel agreed as replied. This wolf had the same problem Evarch had before Rimuru helped her. Both of them were mindless entities who didn't have their ego developed to the point they could be independent. They only acted on instincts, which in this case is destruction due to both of them having negative concepts. Rimuru learned of this when she fought Evarch for the first time after she broke out from the Ciel's Veldanava placed on her. Unlike in the future where Evarch had fully developed an ego and came to get revenge for her imprisonment, at that time Evarch was just like a mindless beast. So Rimuru gave her a free will to see whether she would change and not become a being that always wants destruction. And that changed Evarch's life completely. She no longer began to destroy things. Okay, Ciel, let's start the process, Rimuru said as she looked back at Mlim and the others. You guys better make a protective barrier or something since I'm about to do something dangerous, she warned as she turned back again. Veldanava and Mlim immediately sprang into action. Although they didn't know why, Rimuru said that they knew she wouldn't issue a warning without any reason. Mlim cast her best defensive barrier, while Veldanava dragged Sarion with them. That guy was puzzled, so he was quite slow. A pink barrier began to surround them. This is a magical barrier powered by stellar mana, so unless you are facing something on Guy's level, the barrier won't be broken no matter what. But that barrier almost cracked due to what Rimuru was doing. After seeing Mlim was done making a barrier, Rimuru began the operation. First, they got to give the ego some time to breathe. To do that, they would have to force out all the magicules inside the body that are contaminated with the negative concepts. This approach is similar to how a doctor would treat a wound. First, he would clean the wound thoroughly before applying the medicine. And for Rimuru to apply the medicine, she needs to clean up the wound. So she simply used her magicules as a medium to plush out all of the magicules Fenrer has in its body. So for the next few hours, Fenrer released all of the magicules it had in its body to the Cardinal World at a pace where it wouldn't destroy the natural cycle of life. Although his aura is tinted with miasma, that didn't matter too much. There were no living beings near the surrounding areas. The fighting earlier made everyone flee in panic. Damn, this guy's aura is too tainted miasma, Rimuru thought as she observed the cracks in Mlim's barrier. While Mlim's barrier may be made out of stellar mana, it doesn't mean Mlim is invisible. Since Mlim still lacked experience, she couldn't condense the barrier so it would hold against the miasma. Veldanava, release your own aura to offset the miasma, Rimuru quickly said as shouted as she thought of something. Okay, Veldanava said as he released his own aura. Although his aura is not strong enough to completely push the other's aura, it is enough to block the miasma from corroding the barrier. ARR, Sarion gritted his teeth as he knelt down. Although he isn't that weak, Veldanava's aura is too strong for someone like him to withstand, especially after they were done with such a huge fight. Sorry, I still can't control my aura that very well, Veldanava said as he apologized to Sarion. Sarion didn't say anything, but just gave him an okay sign indicating he is fine for now.